Although I cried at the end of The Dirty Dozen.
Well, who didn't?
Because Jim Brown was throwing these hand grenades down these air shafts, and Richard Jekyll and Lee Marvin were sitting on top of this armored personnel carrier. They're dressed up like Nazis. And Trini Lopez. He busted his neck when they were parachuting down behind the Nazi lines on Richard Jekyll, at the beginning, he had on his shiny helmet because he was the enemy. Oh, God, I love that movie.
Holy crap. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck.
You're about to say it went so well.
I really
And
was.
Then you spilled all over yourself.
Well, you know what I think it was?
What?
Our whole shaking motion.
Yeah, maybe we just do numbers from now on.
Yeah. Oh,
this is Inside Baseball. Listeners don't care. Welcome, listeners, to the show.
Hi, everyone.
Glad you're here. Glad you're listening. What beer are you drinking today?
You mean what beer am I cleaning up today?
Yeah. Hopefully you have some left to drink.
I do. Tell you what, you describe your beer first.
Okay, that's a good call. I went with, I realized after I should have gone with the obvious Sad Panda, which we both love and is on theme. I didn't think about it until after I had already gotten this one.
Until you already had to say something?
Yeah, this one's not as close to being on theme, but I did my best. So it's where is this from? I don't even know, actually. It's from the Wiseacre Brewing Company in Memphis, Tennessee. I don't think I've ever had a Tennessee beer before, but it's good. I just had a sip. It's called Gotta Get Up to Get Down. And it reminds me of that Chumbawamba song, I get down, but I get up again. That's
you mean
like
I get knocked down?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so
you skipped a whole important word.
Either way.
That's a good song, though.
Whether you get emotionally down or you get knocked down, you get up again. It's a success story. That's happy. It makes you cry. I got there in the end.
It's true.
It's a It's a coffee milk stout, and it is delicious.
Well, coffee milk stouts tend to be. Fucking A, man.
How much did you spill?
Dude, a lot more than I thought I did.
No, when he's like that technical difficulties banner to go up and give you some time to clean up.
Well, I was trying to stay somewhat relevant, and you apparently forgot or didn't even think about finding the most obvious beer. But mine's a bit of a stretch with the name, kind of like yours.
Hey. That's not a stretch. What are you talking about?
So I've had this brewery before, and I really like their stuff, but I went with the Big Swell from Maui Brewing Company.
Yeah.
I figured, your eyes swell up, especially when you're crying.
I think that's your eyes well up.
No, I know. I was trying. I tried. I got nothing.
I mean, I guess they get puffy. They do swell.
They can be puffy. They can't puff up. Or like a swelling of tears. That's a
welling of tears.
Fuck, it's so bad already.
Let's move on. So, speaking of things that are bad, let's check in on our movie draft.
Oh, you mean how I'm still doing okay?
You are still doing okay. It is still tied. That is partly due to the fact that Top Gun Maverick didn't make as much as I had actually anticipated that it would. Coming back into theaters, people went, but not as in droves as I thought. I only made a couple of extra million on that.
You know what was kind of funny about that?
Yeah.
It did not re-release down here.
Oh, really?
No.
It was in 1,400 theaters or something.
Jesus.
It had never really left theaters. There were still 68 theaters in the country that were still playing it. But it didn't make a ton of new money. Avatar came out. That's the main headline. Kind of buried the lead there, but Avatar did come out. People seem to like it. And it opened internationally on Wednesday. We're recording this on the 16th. So on Friday, it just came out domestically. So a chunk of change, nothing crazy, but I also think obviously that's going to grow. I saw a thing that it was like projected to have a $500 million weekend.
Yeah, just over 500 million for opening weekend, which is insane.
I didn't know that was an option, but that's pretty cool.
It's still fucking tripping. Where? It's so bad. Much like things I was excited about this week.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. What else was I going to say about Avatar? Oh, I was going to say, I feel like I need to get it out there. I want it on the record. I hate that I selected Avatar in the draft, honestly. I'm not excited about it. I don't care about it. I am honestly annoyed by people that are excited about it. Like, I just don't identify with them at all or relate at all. I don't get it. I hate Avatar and I don't understand it. So to be cheering for it to succeed is a mixed, weird feeling for me, I have to say.
I know it was. When you picked it, I know you only picked it because you were like, fuck, I need something that'll be like the shoe-in money-wise.
Yeah, because you had taken all of the Marvel movies.
Yeah. I think it's going to make a ton of money. I'm kind of at a weird impasse because you and I both had Avatar on our bottom 10 lists way back in the day, folks just joining us. Of course, after our ridiculous episode that totally made me rethink everything.
Yeah, it's probably not too bad compared to
probably not too bad, but I don't remember the first one all that much. And that probably has a lot to do with the fact that when I saw it, I hated it and was miserable. Don't at us. We hate Avatar. It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
But I have found myself, and this is just like one of those stupid things about me, I guess. And being a fan of movies, I was talking to a coworker about it today because they were like, Avatar's out. You going to go see it? And I was like, I really have no desire to.
Yeah. I've seen people be like, you need to see it. You need to see it on the big screen. You need to see it in 3D. And all I can think of is that Avengers Endgame meme with Captain America where he's sitting on the bench. He's like, no, I don't think I will.
Right. But I have found myself kind of having that weird, I don't know if it's like a little itch just to watch movies in general, or because I know it's a big deal movie wise.
Yeah.
But I was like, I kind of feel like I'm gonna end up seeing it, but I won't be happy about it.
Yeah.
And then then I started thinking, well, I don't really remember the first one, which means I would have to rewatch the first one, which is something I really don't want to do. So maybe that'll be my saving grace, or I'm going to be like, I don't fucking care enough. I have a free ticket to see it.
Yeah.
Do I waste
the only way I might be interested is if somebody said it is way better and way different than the first one.
Which so far I haven't seen anyone say anything remotely like that.
I think it's just going to be more of the same. And if you liked that, you'll like this. Good for you. If you didn't like it, like me, then I'm not going to bother.
Right. So I'm kind of at a weird impasse. If I feel the itch really getting to me, I'll probably just rewatch Dances with Wolves because Avatar ripped off of that movie like every
same story.
beat. And with way less heart. No offense, Cameron, but your movie sucks. Anyways,
I'm honestly annoyed by him at this point. I feel like he is talking all about how it's a groundbreaking movie and it's changing all these things about filmmaking. I mean, I don't think so.
It's a 100% CGI film.
Yeah.
I think the most intriguing part of the production is the giant underwater tank for the capture motion that they did. That's kind of crazy and kind of, I get it. Like that'll be a big thing. And then at the same time, I'm like, it might not be a game changer because of how much fucking money your production had to be that you're not going to get back.
That's another reason I don't like it, and I don't want it to succeed, is because I don't want that to be the new normal, that you need to have a $1 billion movie or a $400 million movie with all of these effects and all of these things. I still want, I mean, there are movies that are made on $10 million, less than that even, that are better movies than this. So I am just opposed to the philosophy, I guess.
Right. I think they're kind of really getting away from the magic, or at least Cameron is getting caught up in what he thinks is the magic of like movie making. But for me, I kind of feel like it's totally kind of shitting on what makes movie magic.
Right. If you feel like CG and 3D are the future, I think you're delusional.
Yeah. Like CG, I really don't have an issue with CGI at all. I always know, hey, the CGI is probably not going to look that great. I can always tell when it's fake.
Yeah.
Who cares? Except for those really bad moments, with CGI. We're looking at you, Bruce Banner, inside the Hulkbuster suit.
Yeah, I love that.
But even the trailer for this new Avatar, there's a couple shots in the newest trailer before it released where I was like, whoa, that CGI does not look like it rendered all the way.
Yeah, a little unfinished maybe. Yeah.
So
anyway,
if I end up seeing it, I'll put a disgruntled I'm an idiot kind of post on our page.
Okay, so follow us on Instagram for that.
So
before we leave the draft, I have 2 announcements though.
Yep.
So obviously we're still tied. I have the lead in the rating, you have the lead in the box office. We'll see what happens there. First announcement is we did decide on a tiebreaker, and we're doing that next week. So, or next episode. Next episode is our end of the year review, going through the draft, crowning a winner, and then also drafting the 2023 movies after that. The second announcement is that our benefactor, producer, my wife, Christy, she has informed me that she has procured for us a trophy for whoever wins that is supposed to be very cool. I don't know what it is, but she is going to present it to the winner when we announce who won next week or next episode. I need to stop saying that. Next episode. And and so if you win, I will ship it to you. You'll get to have it all year until whoever wins next year. So it'll be like our Shiva from the league. Hopefully a little less weird than that, but we'll see.
I mean,
it is
still
my wife,
weird, but that's pretty awesome. All right.
Yeah.
And a cameo from Christy? What?
Yeah.
We haven't had one of those for a minute.
I think she's very excited to present it.
She should be. Yeah, going over the movies coming out in theaters next year. I know you're talking up a big game, sir. I'm like, I know what I'm diving deep. I'm bringing my A game. With the way that this year went movie-wise for me, which I have loved the majority of movies that came out. Like, it's an entertaining year.
Yeah.
But looking at the list, I was like, there might be a couple that are actually outstanding, and everything else is going to be just so mediocre.
Yeah.
Like, they're probably entertaining, but they're probably just going to be like, meh.
Medium. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
That said, there are some that I'm very excited for. A couple which I already know will be mediocre, but I will probably love them.
Yeah, there are a lot of really big movies next year. Like, it's kind of insane.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see kind of what happens and where those fall.
True.
So next up, have you seen anything new lately?
I have. I actually have. All right.
What have you seen?
I went and saw Violent Night, which was a goddamn blast. Go see it. It's brutal. It's hilarious. And it's a legit Christmas movie.
Okay. That sounds great.
There's a Christmas message. David Harbour as Santa Claus is fantastic, especially the style that he's playing Santa as. Like, it's just when you hear people describe it as Die Hard meets Home Alone,
Mm-hmm.
but with Santa. They're
Okay.
not kidding. It's
Okay.
Die Hard meets Home Alone. They even directly reference Home Alone a handful
Okay.
of times in the movie,
Nice.
which I was in the theater laughing my ass off at a few of the kill scenes. There was a guy next to me who clearly
Mhm.
did not find it as funny as I did, because I could definitely see him turning his head and looking at me in the theater from the corner of my eye, which just made me kind of laugh a little harder. Just a,
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just realized when you said when Die Hard meets Home Alone, those movies have a lot in common already.
yeah, they do.
So it kind of makes sense that you
And
would cross them over.
it was a lot bloodier than I thought it was going to be,
Nice.
but I loved it. Jake, it's your kind of movie. I think you're gonna
Okay.
feel like I did, where you're gonna laugh pretty much the entire movie. It'll end, and you're gonna be like, "That was awesome."
I'm excited about that. That
should
sounds
be.
great. Yeah.
What else did I watch? What else? I watched 3 new ones. Oh, I watched The Banshees of Inisherin. Have you heard of this movie
Oh, yes. I'm very excited about that movie,
with
actually.
Colin Farrell?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the In Bruges team.
Yes, it is the In Bruges team. It's on HBO. They just released it. It is hilarious. It's very dark comedy. It's weird. The ending just like it's one of those movies where I would argue does not have an ending. Just like I
Okay.
say with No Country for Old Men, how it just like, well,
Mhm.
that was the movie. That's
Yeah.
how this goes.
Okay.
The dark comedy of it, I thought was fantastic. It's funny. Colin Farrell. When I was watching this movie, I kept thinking, this dude is so underrated. Like, have
Yeah.
I just not paid enough attention to this guy's like acting chops
Yeah.
as I should have been? Because he's
he's
fantastic.
incredibly talented.
Yeah. Check it out, Jake. I think you'll get a kick out of it. If
Yeah.
you like dark comedy, if you like In Bruges, you'll get a kick out of it. I think I
Okay.
like In Bruges a bit more because that movie
Okay.
is just special.
Yeah.
But this was pretty cool. And then my daughter and I watched A Christmas Story Christmas,
Yeah.
which was very funny, very like, hey, this is great. And it is way more emotional than her or I were remotely prepared for.
Okay. So it's like sincerely connecting to the same
Yes.
emotions and nostalgia that A Christmas Story has.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of like childlike innocence to it, it's very much grown 40-something-year-old men just
Mhm.
kind of seeing each other again. They're all grown ups and just kind of, I guess, not really tapping into that childhood again, but just kind of being nostalgic together. Very sweet movie. It's very funny.
Mhm.
And there are some scenes in it where the emotions are high and they take you off guard and you're like, what the hell is happening? And there was a couple times my daughter and I looked at each other like, what is this movie?
That's good. I was kind of worried it would be like a cash grab, like why does this exist kind of thing, but that sounds good.
No, I mean, they definitely do a lot of member berry stuff in it,
Mhm.
but all the member berry stuff feels exactly like, hey, because it's the original cast minus the
Yeah.
mom and dad.
Okay.
But all the original kids played their characters again, but now they're all in
Yeah.
their like mid 40s, late 40s, whatever.
hmm
And so all the member berry stuff with all of them, to me, felt more like when, you get together with old friends and you just kind
Yeah.
of fall
Tell
into
little
that.
stories.
Yeah. That's
For
what
sure.
this felt like.
Okay.
Very cute movie. It made us fucking. It's like, it's a Christmas movie. We're going to be like, I need a break from crying at movies.
Right.
Yeah, that didn't happen. What'd you watch?
That's awesome. I watched something new to me, but is actually very old.
Ooh.
I watched a movie that Christy said we should watch because I'd never heard of it. It's called The Crush.
You've never
From,
seen
like-
The Crush?
no, never even heard of this movie.
No.
So we watched The Crush. It stars Carrie Ells and Alicia Silverstone. It's her first movie ever, and is kind of weird because she plays like a 14-year-old girl. She's only 16 at the time, and she has a crush on this Carrie Ells who's like 30. And it's a little awkward at times, but also very scary because she does a really good job of being all Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction towards him. So I liked it. It was a good time. It also gave me an idea for like a series of episodes we should do next year or so, called like Introducing or something. It'd be like Introducing Alicia Silverstone, and then we deep dive an actor that we like or a filmmaker that we like and their first project or first movie or whatever.
Oh, watch their first. Now, I guess this is off air. It's not off air. It's not a radio show. It's a radio show.
We are live.
We'll iron out the details. I like where you're going with it.
Yeah, I think I like it. Was like when we watched Jim Carrey and we watched all of his stuff. Sometimes it's overwhelming to watch the whole catalog. Yeah. Like if we did like Tom Hanks, like how on earth are we going to watch all of Tom Hanks movies?
We had a hard time doing it with Jim Carrey. We had a hard time doing it with Adam Sandler.
But it's fun watching like Overboard with Adam Sandler or Rubber Face with Jim Carrey and seeing where they started.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of the idea. So we'll see where that goes. And I haven't watched anything new, but I have been very annoyed, kind of blue-balled, because I keep seeing headlines about Heat 2 by Michael Mann.
It's a book.
And I know it's a book, but I keep clicking on it, hoping that it's like an announcement that they're making a movie. And it's like, no, it's still the book. They need to like put it in the headline, this book, Heat 2 by Michael Mann. So I stopped clicking on the dang headlines because it's the most annoying thing in the world.
That book's been out for a little while now, too.
I know. I don't know. Maybe it just showed up in my algorithm or something.
Poor Jim.
Yeah, I know. Boo-hoo for me. So, before we start, I did notice you are wearing a certain gear.
Yeah.
Last episode, I asked you about what you thought about James Gunn and the DC situation. Apparently, I asked you a little too early.
Yeah.
Because there has been a lot of changes in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Not even 2 weeks. There's been a lot of changes. Well, I guess when everyone listens to this. Yeah. So at the time of recording, it's the 16th, which is just 2 days after James Gunn decided to like just give the finger to fans everywhere and was like, it's a good idea. Let's just remake Smallville, but in movie form. I'm bitter. I'm very bitter.
They told Henry Cavill to announce he's coming back as Superman. And then weeks later, not very long at all, they said, actually, Henry Cavill, sorry, we would like you to not be Superman anymore. And go ahead and tell all of your fans that you're hanging up the cape.
Right. Like permanently. Part of me gets it. I kind of get it. Wanting to just let's start fresh, clear the table, whatever.
Yeah.
But it definitely pisses me off to no avail.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm gonna always go watch a DC film or a comic book movie, whether it's Marvel, DC, Vertigo, whatever, because I like these characters. I like comic book movies. For the most part. I am so mad.
Is it like how they handled it? Or
I hate how or
their
I think it's just super
like?
shisty and super just douchey of James Gunn to come in. And the whole idea was to clean up Warner Brothers, the way they handle DC. Don't fuck around with this stuff. He even came out saying, like, we're taking fans, like, what they're wanting to see. We want to follow what the fans want and what the fans have been demanding.
He literally said, we're going to keep doing what is working and fix what is not working. The things that are working are Henry Cavill as Superman, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
And Ben Affleck as Batman. And in one foul swoop, he fired all of them. What gets me about this, not only does he fire everyone, But with Henry Cavill, he said they want to cast him in a new role in the new DC as like some other. To me, what a slap in the face. To the point where I hope Henry Cavill like joins MCU and just is so tongue in cheek about like fuck DC. They want Ben Affleck, no longer Batman. But they want him to direct DC films.
Yeah.
Again,
Which he wants to direct, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's
no,
kind
I
of
think
cool.
he would be able to. I think obviously I'm a fan of Ben Affleck as a director, writer, actor.
Yeah.
I'm a fan,
Right.
but at the same time, fuck you, James Gunn. Like the internet broke because of two pieces of info that happened not long ago.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck returning as Batman for Flash and Aquaman 2. And then Henry Cavill returning as Superman. I mean, globally, this news was like exciting. It made everyone happy. And here we go. We're getting the guys we want.
I haven't seen a single positive or in support or, hey, let's see what happens kind of comment from the announcement that Henry Cavill is fired.
Right.
Like everybody's like, this is a bad idea. Why are you doing
like,
this?
Are you out of your goddamn mind? And then to focus on a younger Superman in his like young days.
Yeah.
No.
I thought we were over origin stories.
I know. Like no more origin stories.
Yeah.
We get it. You can show us an origin story for characters that maybe most people don't know.
Right.
But for the
not
heavy
the
hitters,
most popular character on the entire planet.
right? Like to do yet another origin story of the character that started every superhero ever. The dude literally was the first one made.
Yeah, everybody knows.
We know his backstory.
Yeah, it also rubs me the wrong way that James Gunn is going to write it. Yeah. Like it feels, I don't know, there's something weird about that it's like, I'm going to scrap all of this and I'm going to write the new Superman movie and that's going to build this whole universe.
Yeah, to me it's very
like it feels like you can't delegate. You're supposed to be CEO and now you're making your own movie. It feels, I don't know, there's like hubris in there that is, it feels yucky to me.
Of hubris in there, and I'm very worried. His formula worked awesome for the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and my bitterness to him does not take away my excitement for Guardians 3. But Guardians, comic book wise, those characters are silly. They're goofy. Yeah. They're supposed to be odd. It's supposed to be that style. When he made the Suicide Squad, entertaining movie, I don't have too much against it. Did I think it was like incredible?
Yeah.
No.
Good, not great.
I kind of think it's actually a clunky film. Like there are parts in it that I think he just made it just to be like, look, we can make an R-rated DC film and I'm going to kill everyone except Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Who cares?
I have not watched Peacemaker. And there's a very
specific
reason why I haven't, and I have no desire to, because every image, every clip that I watch, everything about it is so off-putting to me.
Yeah. I get the same vibes from it that I got from the Watchmen's show.
Yeah.
And that's also why I watched like the first episode and I was like, I'm good. I don't want to ruin this.
I never finished that show. I watched a couple episodes and was like, this isn't Watchmen at all. They've totally missed the point of Rorschach. They're like...
Yeah.
So I've gone from cautiously optimistic to kind of taking it personal and...
hating them with all of my being, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, it's tough because Henry Cavill's Superman, his version of Superman to me, made me a fan of the character and has really helped me kind of see that character through a new lens, through a different perspective, where I've gone back and reread old comics. And when I have Henry Cavill's version kind of in my head, but I'm like melding, the character becomes relatable. He becomes something that I actually feel a connection to, which I've never had. And it's all due to Cavill.
Yeah. He's like, for me, his Superman is like Kevin Conroy's Batman.
Like
Like,
he's
he will
this
always be the voice I hear, the face
right,
I see.
right. So this one's rough. I kind of feel as a movie fan like this year's been pretty great. As a
Mhm.
comic book fan, this year sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of concerns about it. They have a massive PR problem.
Yeah.
Just all of the rumors swirling, and you see things like, oh, he wants to put Matt Reeves' Batman in the universe, and then he has to come out and be like, no, I don't want to do that. And then he's like, well, Wonder Woman 3 is scrapped and it's Patty Jenkins' fault. And then Patty Jenkins is like, no, I'm trying to do it, but they don't want to do it. And I'm also doing Star Wars. It's like all this chaos going on, and Aquaman is changing, and they're trying to
They've
figure all this
already
stuff out.
taken Wonder Woman and Superman out of the Flash. Batman is out of Aquaman. I'm like,
Yeah, at this point, it's like, and Black Adam is having issues where The Rock is kind of in trouble for saying that it made $100 million, and apparently it might have lost $100 million. And yeah, so Black Adam might be gone. We don't know what's happening.
Black Adam was a part of that line where they're like, no, we're not doing anything else with Black Adam. And now Zachary Levi's like, I have no clue what's happening with Shazam, because he's the only one that hasn't had any face-to-face time with any of the heroes. You could argue Superman, but there was no face.
Right.
Although
it's
it
like
is
Superman
the
is
Man
in
of
this
Steel
universe.
suit, so I mean,
that's so like technical. They could totally get around that.
They could.
But yeah, it just worries me where they're going. Like, at this point, the next Superman, whoever it will be, they will be very hard to make it as good, and you're going to get a lot of flack because people will say you took away something great and gave us this. Unless it's perfect, unless it's awesome, there's that risk. And comic books and DC is not above screwing things up. Like, at this point, there's a real chance that they will make Superman like bisexual or something, like they did in the comics like a year ago or something.
Well, okay, but it's funny that you bring that up because the comic book line where they did that was one of the worst received like stories ever. Like, through all communities, folk don't at us. This was a universal thing. People rejected this idea because
they're like, we don't even want it. Like, the LGBT community is like, we don't even want to be associated with it.
And the reasoning was the character was never this way, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't try to force us, because all of a sudden it's like the Disney and Marvel thing where it's like, well, we're going to be woke just to be woke. Don't be mad at us.
Yeah. So they need to get their plan straight and out in public so that the rumors can finally stop.
Yeah. Well,
it's also weird. I feel like James Gunn is the face because he's the name people know, and he's made movies that people recognize, so they can kind of compare and be like, oh, he made this, so maybe he'll make this in that same kind of way. Like, he'll be that good kind of thing. But he's co-CEO with another guy that most people don't really pay attention to, Peter Safran. I've started looking into Peter Safran because I didn't know who he was really either. The movies that he has made are not very good either. Like, they're concerningly bad. So he made Flypaper, which I know you like.
I do like Flypaper.
He's been a producer for a long time. He's only produced these movies. He hasn't like written them or directed them or anything, just a producer. But he's been associated with Flypaper, Aquaman and Shazam, obviously, and the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. That's why he knows James Gunn. But The Conjuring, not just Conjuring 1 and 2, which are good, but the whole universe, the Annabelle movies, The Nun. So that's like a franchise that he has been a producer of. That's a little concerning to me. And then all of the horrible spoof movies that you can think of: Scary Movie, Meet the Spartans, Disaster Movie, Vampires Suck, The Starving Games.
Oh, no.
That movie franchise universe, he was also producer over.
Oh, no. See, this is my concern. So these two guys, and it's so apparent to me now, these two guys have been so stuck in silliness. This is the only style I think they know.
It's fun.
And it's worked for the projects for the most part that they've done. You know, James Gunn, he made Slither. that weird alien worm
Yeah.
movie, which I love. I think it's hilarious. But again, he's never really done the super dark, which DC's dark, guys.
Right.
Fucking get over it, DC's
Their
dark.
thing. Yeah.
So they either have to come out the gate with like very serious movies, like Man of Steel style, like Snyder's Justice League. He has to do this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just I'm so mad.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be
mad.
even more weird to have the Batman and Joker 2 and whatever the
Right.
next Batman's going to be in comparison to the actual DC universe. Like, it's going to be so awkward if they make it like fun.
I hope they don't, but I'm pretty
All right.
I'm pretty upset. Henry Cavill's my guy. I'm not just a fan. Like he really does define that character for me. I have Henry Cavill Superman shit all over. I mean, I've got the dude above me constantly.
Yeah.
His Superman, his portrayal of that character does genuinely mean so much to me because he has actually helped bring that character kind of to life for me.
Yeah.
And to see him just get treated this way
Mm-hmm.
is like, how can you shit on this guy? How can you shit on this character so much? These writers and these companies are like, he's our priority. We love Superman. And it's like, if you loved him, you would do this.
Right. Yeah, it does feel like shitting on it. It's not cool.
All right.
So until next episode when we have more DC news, apparently.
Fuck you, Warner Brothers and James Gunn. Anyways.
This episode, I wasn't really prepared for. I don't know whose idea it was, but I feel like it was a fun idea of we're going to do... Is it my fault again?
Was all you, man. This was all you.
So it's not as bad as the most offensive movies of all time, but we're talking about our top 10 movies that make us cry, and it's on the level. Like, it's seriously near there where I was like, okay, I need this to be over. I need to be past it. I need to be looking into 2023 movies because there's too many sad movies that I had to watch.
It was like, I'm either crying because I'm so sad, or I'm crying because I feel so happy and uplifted, or I'm crying because movies are like holding a mirror up to me and calling me out on all of my own shit. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this right now.
Right. Yeah. Stop trying to make me a better person.
Right. Like, I just wanted to watch the movie. I'm so
and
tired.
It's also it's not really my genre. Like, I've never been someone who likes crying at movies, and so I don't like put on a movie and I'm like, I need a good cry. Like, I'm just not that guy. And for a long time, for most of my life, I was the guy who didn't cry at movies. Like, you could put on the saddest shit, I'd be like, it was pretty good, and I wouldn't cry at it until the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's so like, I don't know, my emotions, maybe I'm getting old, maybe I'm in menopause, I don't know, but my emotions are crazy and I feel like I cry more. And so I guess it's a good time to do this episode because I did sincerely shed some tears for these movies because we're talking about the movies that we identify with the most. So they're not just tear jerkers. I feel like tear jerkers is a genre on itself where they like just try to make you cry and they do everything possible to make you cry. My movies are not really tear jerkers. Maybe it's an awkward episode because I'm going to admit the things that make me cry, and it's probably not what you're expecting all the time.
Swear to God, dude, if you have Roadhouse in your top 10,
when he dies, when he gets stabbed, and you see Dalton's face, he just wells up.
I swear to God.
I don't. No. Just go back to last episode. You'll hear how much that movie made me sad. But so I don't have like tear jerkers specifically. I have some legit movies, some different kinds of movies. It's all kind of all over the place. But tear jerkers I don't really watch because I feel like those are mostly I don't know who those are for. My wife was telling me about a movie not long ago, or maybe it was a show, or maybe it was a book. I don't remember. But she was telling me this story, and every time I would say, how's that thing going that you're doing or watching? And then she like would tell me the saddest thing in the world keeps happening to this person. And I was like, that is terrible. Like she got raped again. Like I don't want that. Like something that's just trying to obliterate my life and
Right.
emotions by the saddest thing possible. So mine are mostly good, but you do end up crying at the end or in the middle.
My movies. Okay, so I have one that people are going to be like, really? No, I have two. I have two that people are going to be like, that movie,
Okay.
really? And my argument to you is, fuck you. Yes, these movies.
It's my list.
It is my list, but mostly my list is. I didn't realize this at first, but when I finalized it, I was like, oh God, I have a theme to my list. I'm gonna I want you to figure out if you can tell what the theme is by the end of the episode. I think it's a pretty obvious one. You're gonna laugh. You might even know what it is right out of the gate. But
Okay.
in terms of like just sad movies that make you cry, I have two, maybe two and a half, depending on how you feel. No, we're gonna say three and a half. We're gonna say three and a half movies that are like sad, and that kind of invokes the tears. But for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just so tired of crying at movies. I can't wait to like pop on a movie. I'm not gonna cry. That's why I watched The Banshees of Inisherin the other night.
Yeah.
I was like, I need something new. I need something I know for a fact I'm not going to cry at. Like,
Okay.
I need something just so.
Sometimes it's risky with new movies because you don't know. Some they'll just like put on that face and it just makes you want to cry.
I was putting a lot of belief into the team behind In Bruges.
Yeah.
Is not going to try to make you cry. They're going to make you watch a movie where you're like, who are these fucking people? And that's exactly the kind of movie I got. So it was okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right.
As far as like tearjerker movies, I don't think I've ever watched a movie with the intent of I feel like a good cry. I'm going to watch this. Movies that make me cry are always the movie that'll come out of left field and hit me in the feels with like a scene or a little bit of music or some dialogue. To me, that's kind of a tearjerker. Is the movie that doesn't try to like do everything in their power to be like, look how sad and horrible. I mean, if that was the case, I would have sobbed at Requiem for a Dream, which might be one of the all-time saddest, most depressing movies ever made. I've never cried at that movie.
Yeah.
I just think it's a good movie. So these are tearjerkers to me, but not tearjerkers in the sense of like, I don't know.
The genre.
Yeah.
The Lifetime movie genre.
Yeah, this isn't the Hallmark tearjerker, folks.
Yeah. All right. So you want to get into it?
Yeah, we might as well.
Do you want to go first?
I can.
I feel like I went first last time.
Sure.
You go first.
I'll go first.
You go first.
I'll go first. So, my number 10 was one where I was originally only ever going to have this as an honorable mention. It was the first movie that popped in my head when you had the idea of like, let's do the movies that make us cry. Like, okay, Jake.
I need to stop having ideas.
Now, don't stop. Just, offensive movies.
Have better ones.
Crying movies.
All right, I'll work on it.
But then, like, I rewatched it. It was one of the last movies I watched in preparation for the episode because it was always only going to be an honorable mention. But then I rewatched it and was like, this movie deserves way more credit because it's one of those movies where it's so dumb. It's so stupid and it's so immature and it doesn't like, it just does these stupid, normal things. And then out of left field, it hits you with what the whole point of the movie is. It hits you just like, oh, that's your heart. I'm going to stomp on it now, and then I'm going to try and make you laugh in like 10 minutes, and you're going to not because you're still crying over this
Is it an
one
Adam
scene.
Sandler movie?
It might be.
I knew it. He does that. That's his thing.
Yeah, my number 10 is Click. I have to give Click its due.
Yeah.
I have to.
Oh, for sure.
Like, the movie is so childish and so stupid. It's entertaining, it's funny, but when they hit you with what the whole point of the movie is in those final 10 minutes of the movie, it is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
When did you tear my heart out and throw it in that blender and just laugh as you hold the blade down? Like,
yeah.
Click hits hard when you least expect it, and I feel like it deserves way more credit than it's ever actually kind of publicly been given because of its ability to do that.
Right. Yeah, it's so disarming that you don't expect it, but it has this beautiful message that really makes you examine your life and your future and your family and your parents and relationships. You're like, I was not ready for this at all.
At all. From the moment the hospital kicks in, it is all right, here we go. And everyone knows, if you've seen Click, you know what I'm talking about, and you probably didn't have a dry eye either. So
that's a great choice because I completely agree. I think we talked about it in the Adam Sandler episode that he does that. He will just have the silliest, dumbest movie, but it's also incredibly sincere and honest and emotional. Like there's very real life in the middle of it.
It's not a crying movie, but it was one that just like, it made me sit back again. My daughter and I watched Grown Ups together.
Yeah.
And I was telling Monica, she loves Adam Sandler, as she should. And I was just telling her all the fun, like, he makes movies with all of his best friends. Like, they literally just decide, let's make a dumb movie together, and we're just going to have fun doing it. And you can tell it translates. I told my daughter that, and her reaction was like, oh, that's like the best. And it was like, Click, like, yeah, that's probably, he might be the most honest actor and producer we have because he doesn't care about kissing ass to everyone else. He's all about, I'm just gonna have fun with my friends. And what's more honest about that?
Yeah. And I think the formula works. I think that people connect to it because he's consistently the highest viewed movies on Netflix, is because everybody gets that. Everybody likes that.
Yeah. So I can't deny Click. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh shit, this is not an honorable mention. This one's probably, this one needs to be on my list.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Well, going from Click to, which I agree is underrated, but also a lot of people are going to be like, Click? What? Going from that to a very serious Best Picture nominated, Best Actor winning movie. My number 10 is Good Will Hunting.
Ooh.
Which I don't know how many people cry at it, but I feel like it's such a good movie that's all about a guy who's so closed off to the world and his own emotions, and he's just had to become, I guess, hardened. And the whole movie is about learning to be vulnerable and learning to be brave enough to be vulnerable, not just in relationships with Skylar, played by Minnie Driver, but with just life, like going after the things you want to do, not being afraid to, because he spends a lot of time just like doing things that he's comfortable with, which is getting into fights and trying to avoid new things because it's scary. You don't know if you're going to succeed. You don't know if that girl's going to love you back and all that stuff. And so the most emotional parts of it are because freaking Robin Williams is the most perfect actor on the planet, because and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's writing, their writing for their dialogue in this movie is so good. that when Robin Williams, every dialogue that he has, he's talking about like how you're not experiencing life unless you are vulnerable and brave enough to take that step and find that person that's like important enough or that is it personal enough to you that you actually know them and they actually know you. And so when he talks about his wife who died, or when he talks about the things that that Will needs to do or needs to learn, it's just so powerful, and it makes you feel like you need to examine your life and take those chances, kind of things. And then when he confronts him and just says, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." Like that scene every time makes me cry. I can't help it. It's just so powerful how they both just play off each other.
Yeah. I remember when that came out, it took me a little while to watch Good Will Hunting because I mocked it for so long.
Yeah.
For no reason. I had zero reason to. I just mocked it. It was like, oh, I'm not going to watch that. And then I had a really close friend. She loved that movie. And so I caved and was like, fine. Let's see what the hype is of Good Will Hunting. Dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My favorite part is actually towards the end. It's kind of a mix of two moments in the movie. One is Matt Damon's big argument with Ben Affleck of what Affleck's, I always forget his character's name, of what he kind of hopes and aspires for Matt Damon. What he tells, like when he just bears all, and it to me, it's like, man, what a crushing kind of speech to hear. If like that's your best friend telling you these certain things, you might take it a wrong way, but what he means and what he's actually saying is very powerful, and it's almost like one of the truest forms or signs of friendship. And then you get Robin Williams, who's like the greatest mentor on earth. Holy crap. But then that final scene with Affleck is such a perfect culmination of that story. And it's the kind of movie and that kind of ending where, to me, when I watch it, it's very like so uplifting and so like, oh, I need to go outside. Like, okay. I love Good Will Hunting. That's such a great pick, Jake.
Thank you.
Oh, and it's not your fault scene.
I know.
That's
every time.
That's a rough one to get through.
Yeah.
Well, going from academics and learning to live your life and being okay with having to venture out and knowing that imperfections are a good thing. We're going to go to the high seas.
Okay. I'm on board.
This one gets me because of a couple lines and also the sheer kind of passion of this crew with what they're trying to prove, not only to doubters, but mainly to themselves. Just that kind of gets to me sometimes. This is also, I saw this in the theater when it came out in 2000. My mom took me to it. And to this day, watching this movie on that screen was one of the most intense experiences I've ever had in a theater. Because I was a little kid. I was 12?
Yeah.
And watching this was just like, oh my God, oh my God. And this was still in the age where like characters made it. Especially main characters made it.
Yeah,
and
the
this
good
movie
guy always lives.
Was a little different. Spoiler alert. Well, we should probably have a spoiler alert at the start of the whole episode.
I'll try to make that happen.
But my number 9 is The Perfect Storm.
Okay.
I can already hear people being like, man, Click and A Perfect Storm? What's so... Like, guys, The Perfect Storm is so good. It's a great man versus nature storyline. But it's such a powerful story of kind of man versus self. because they're taking all these guys who have just been on a losing streak, who want nothing more than to prove that they can get a win, but it's more in line proving to themselves that they can achieve something.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, especially for people in general, but for men specifically, proving to ourselves that we are capable of doing anything
Yeah.
is a big deal.
Yeah. That
to
you're
us.
not just a screw up and you can actually
Right.
succeed.
And that's
Yeah.
where I think the heart of the story really is that it's a small fishing crew that just are trying to beat a slump. Of course, they make some poor decisions doing this, and that is a very real thing that happens. And the movie happens to be based on actual events for 2/3 of the film. The movie is accurate. It's like the final third that they had to fictionalize due to the fact that the boat didn't have a radio antenna anymore, so no one knew what the hell was going on. But this movie gets me every time, and there is one line, like I'll start tearing up and feel them like kind of coming on a little bit with that music score. But there is one line in this movie. As soon as it's said, I'm like, well, there it is. I'm broken. I'm done. I'm a puddle. It's the line of "This is going to be hard on my boy." That line, every time I watch it, is like, God damn it. But I just think The Perfect Storm, it's a beautiful movie. It's an intense film for so many reasons, and it gets me every time. I don't think I've ever watched it with a dry eye at the end.
Okay. I'm trying to remember if I've seen it. I may not have.
Oh.
And so it's one that I obviously need to watch. I've heard of it, obviously, for a really long time.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard about it be talked about in that way. And that makes me more interested in seeing it. So I like how you put that.
Yeah, to me, that's what the movie represents and kind of my connection to it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to go deep fishing outside like that. It's not me.
That's okay. My next movie, I feel like is pretty underrated. I know there's another movie from the same couple of guys that is more well known and people are very moved by. But this one I remember seeing in the theater and kind of it stuck with me for a long time, and I've always really liked it. So my number 9 is 7 Pounds.
Oh,
with Will Smith and the same director that did Pursuit of Happiness with him. It's the kind of story that I feel like if you watch the trailer, you probably would skip it because it's kind of generic and you're not really clear what the movie's about and what's going on. But it's a really, really good movie, and I think it's told in a good way where Will Smith plays this guy who is he works for the IRS, which kind of sucks. Like, get a real job. But if you look past that, he's also a little like nosy. He's like getting into people's business. He calls this call center and talks to Woody Harrelson, who's blind, and kind of bullies him a little bit. But Woody Harrelson's very nice and polite and handles it with good just grace, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's like looking into these other people. He's an auditor, so like he goes and audits like Rosario Dawson and all this stuff. And he's constantly asking like these different people, trying to find out if they're a good person or not, basically. And like you said, spoiler alert at the beginning of the episode, he kind of over time, you don't learn until towards the end that he was in a car accident that he caused, and he killed like several people, 7 people. And so he's trying to essentially make amends through the course of the movie. And he decides to, all of these different people, he finds people that are really not good people, and they all have some sort of issue, like a terminal illness or like Woody Harrelson was blind or whatever. And so he ends up donating a bunch of his organs to all these different people, and essentially, I guess, sacrificing himself for them so that so that Woody Harrelson can see, and all, this guy can get a heart, and this guy can get bone marrow transplant, and all this stuff. And just the way it all comes together is so beautiful, and you kind of get the guilt that he had for what he did, and that he just wants to make it, to like level the playing field and even out the score by saving this an same number of people, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful story. I always like it.
Yeah, 7 Pounds is it's an incredible movie. I agree with you. I think it's a little underrated. You don't hear people talk about it very much. In terms of Will Smith movies that make you cry, everyone automatically goes to Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Quick spoiler for me, I don't know about you, that is not on my list.
It's not on mine either.
Amazing movie. I take nothing away from, nothing against it. It's incredible.
Oh, for sure.
And I definitely do cry at that movie every time I watch it. But there are other movies that hit me for a little bit different reasons, and that's why that one's not on. But 7 Pounds, I think, is underrated. It is the kind of movie that will kind of make you, through these other characters, like you said, the broken people, kind of reflect on yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good pick, dude. I think it's a good pick. Oh, man.
All right.
Number 8.
8.
All right. Oh, man.
Oh, here we go. I meant to get a box of tissue. I don't have any in here.
So my number 8 was a movie that really kind of brought to light for me the first time I saw it how much I kind of cherish these characters and the innocence that they all have and the importance of that innocence. You and I have kind of talked about this in terms of a new movie coming out that I really won't be watching.
The remake of Roadhouse?
I mean, chances are I'm going to skip that one, honestly.
Okay.
I've thought about it. I'm probably going to skip that because you're not going to... You can't do it, guys.
Yeah.
No offense. No, number 8 is Christopher Robin. I feel like this is a movie that no one talks about, and I think that's a shame. But when I saw it in the theater, it really brought to light, like I said, just how much I think Winnie the Pooh and all the characters of the 100 Acre Wood, how important they are, and kind of how much we need them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their innocence, their perception on everything around it, especially Winnie the Pooh, you know. I think there are so many great lessons that we should probably really be focusing on and really trying to relearn constantly.
Yeah.
Because we've gotten so caught up in everything else that we have forgotten the importance of playing and how vital that kind of thing is to our development as a human. This movie really hit me so deeply, and it's one where I don't watch it all the time because it holds that mirror up to me every time I watch it as kind of a you got caught up in all the mess again.
Yeah.
And you're like, sorry.
Yeah.
Right?
You got away from and lost, you forgot all of the things that you learned as a kid.
And I think Ewan McGregor as Christopher Robin, he does such a good job. I love Ewan McGregor. I really do. Yeah. That dude is such a powerful actor, and he does such an awesome job of going from so serious and so caught up in the business of the world and the structure and thinking that everything has to be so cut and dry. And then to flip that where he starts relearning the importance of fun. Not just for himself or fun with these characters, but to let himself kind of be free. His relationship with his wife and his kid like instantly blossom. They instantly
Hmm.
connect again. It's so beautiful. I think this movie is like it's a perfectly paced film to me.
Yeah.
It never tries to rush. It's so quiet. It's so peaceful. Even on the chaotic scenes, it's still oddly peaceful. And it has all to do with Winnie the Pooh and everyone. I love Christopher Robin, and it makes me cry every time because it just feels so like personal.
Yeah.
It feels very like you need to listen now, and you're like, I don't want to, but I am.
So are you alluding to the fact that you're not going to see Pooh, Blood and Honey?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Interesting.
like
You're protesting it.
not protesting. I mean, people do what you want.
Yeah.
I think it's if I was a teenager, I would think it's the greatest idea ever, mainly
Yeah.
because I would be like, ooh, it's so edgy and this is
Right.
hilarious. I'm an adult now and I don't
And
care
you actually
about
see value in the
right.
things that they're
And I
trying
don't
to
give a
like.
shit about trying to be edgy or,
Yeah.
you know, we talked about it in the offensive episode where you just
Hmm.
want to be controversial for the sake of it. There's no real point to it. That's how I
Yeah.
view this new take on Pooh Bear.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, rebelling is good, but sometimes there are things that are good, and so if you rebel against them and try to corrupt them or
You're
whatever,
kind
it's
of like
worse.
you're harming yourself,
Yeah, it makes it
honestly.
worse.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Okay. Well, in the same vein of needing these characters and identifying with them and them having a very real effect on your life, my next movie, my number 8, is also kind of in the same vein. And I think every millennial will identify and understand what I mean when I say my number 8 is Never Ending Story. And not I think everybody's going to jump to poor Artax in the swamp
Yep.
being sucked down and Atreyu being so sad that his horse is being swallowed by the swamp. That is very sad. But the whole story, like you don't understand the whole story when you're a kid and you watch it.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't understand. It's about this kid. He reads a book, cool. And then you get into the fantasy world and you're like, oh, it's interesting. It's pretty. It's fanciful. All of that stuff. If you watch that movie as an adult, it hits different. Like there's it because partly because it's kind of like Sleepless in Seattle, where his mom has died at the very beginning. He's there with his dad, but he doesn't have Tom Hanks, who's nice and helpful and helping him get through the griefing of that.
Right.
His dad's just like, we got responsibilities. We got to do what we got to do. And so he's basically telling him, you have to grow up because you can't be a kid anymore. And I can't take care of you and all this stuff. I mean, he's not the worst, but he's also not that very helpful in the grieving process. So he's kind of on his own to like figure out how to do that. And I think everybody knows what it's like to try to escape from your problems into like a book or a movie or a show or something. And that's essentially what the main character does, where he finds this book, and even though the shopkeeper's like, be careful because it's real, like everything in this is real, it's real danger and all this stuff, he would rather escape from the problem of going to a math class and a math test, and also his whole life, which is not great. He's being bullied. His mom just died. He wants to escape into this story. But the story ends up being exactly what he needs, because it's not just about Atreyu and the whole problem of Fantasia and all the stuff that they're trying to solve. It actually ends up putting him in the story, that it becomes real, that he needs to save Fantasia, which is an allegory for him needing to take control of his life, to succeed in this thing, that he has all of the capability to do that and all that stuff. So it just teaches him all of these life lessons and gives him the strength to do that. And so it's very joyful and pleasant and good overall. Like there's no like super sad parts except for Artax in the swamp. the rest of it is very good. But I always just love seeing him kind of, I guess, step into that space and learning that he has that strength and being able to do the things that he needs to do, and mostly because he doesn't have his mom to help him do that. His dad's not doing a good job helping him do that, so he's able to accomplish that, and I think that's great.
Oh yeah, it has been years since I watched Neverending Story.
Yeah.
It is one that I was talking about it with someone like within the last month or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling I haven't watched it for years, but I've been kind of feeling this tug to revisit it. I haven't yet. And now that you're talking about it, now I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to.
Yeah, maybe wait a few weeks.
Right,
you don't need to do it right now.
Enjoy the dry eye for a little while.
Yeah.
But I do remember loving Neverending Story as a kid. I do remember just the visuals were incredible, but I remember really loving the story and just kind of connecting to the idea of using, like you said, books or movies or storytelling in general to escape into that, and then it kind of forcing you to confront your own shit. That's something I live day in and day out.
I'm kind of giggling to myself because when you rewatch it, I want you to pay attention to something that I don't remember from when I was a kid, but I noticed this week and I thought it was weird.
Okay.
If you may remember, there's a scene where Atreyu is walking towards the like Temple of Light or whatever, and he looks up and there's this giant statues on the sides with those like golden women with the wings and everything.
Yeah.
They have massive breasts, like with nipples and everything going on. Like, I feel like I would have remembered that as a kid, but I didn't. And I watched it and I was like, this is a little bit like they're statues, but they're still, out there.
All right.
They're very
smart, I mean,
I'm
probably not going to focus on
You'll
that.
notice. You'll remember.
I will probably notice.
You're like, Jake was right. I can't believe it.
As you're wiping the tears away. God damn, those tits are huge.
Exactly. All right.
When I rewatch it, I'll keep my eye out for giant statue boobies.
Good.
Complete with nipples.
Yes.
I like that pick, dude. I like that.
Thank you.
All right. My number 7. Dude, all 10 of these. I'm like, every time when I made my notes, I was already like drawing the eyes, right? Because the movies had just ended. And I was like, we'll make it through. We keep going down this list, and I'm like, oh, that movie.
Yeah. I know.
Like, oh, it's still fresh.
I'm going to sincerely need to get some tissues because I was getting a little bit misty. I was welling up a little bit in that last one.
You have yet to start crying on the show. I've done it like a handful of times now. It's your fucking turn, okay?
It's due, yeah. All right. That's fair.
I'll probably still be the first one to break. Kidding. Number 7. I have always adored this movie. I remember when it got advertised, it was advertised as a buddy comedy, and it is.
Okay.
But it has so much more to it, and I think people have kind of made it a point when they talk about it to ignore the heart of the story because it's easier to just focus on the fun parts than to focus on what the movie really is. Plus, any movie where friendship becomes the crutch, that kind of relationship is like the foundation, what the whole thing's built on, the impact and the importance of friendship. Chances are I'm gonna weep. Like I'm not gonna hold it together very well. Unless it's movies like I Love You, Man, which I don't cry at, but man, do I feel a sense of like I want to hug my best friends, right? Every time you watch it. Or but number 7 is The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson.
That's an old person movie.
It's an old person movie. Yeah. but it's so fucking good.
Okay.
It's have you not seen it, Jake?
No,
Oh,
because it's an old person movie. I was like, it's not for me.
it is for you, Jake.
Okay, then I'll check it out.
So, okay, the premise of the movie is these
Hmm.
two old guys. One is like a hands-on mechanic. He's always
Hmm.
done the hard labor job his whole life. He's got adult children, grandkids, right? He's married
Hmm.
for 40 something years. Jack Nicholson plays this big wig hospital owning kind of
Mm.
conglomerate dude. He's just rich
Okay.
beyond belief. He owns hospitals and he runs them as a business. He's like very cost effective. This is how it has to be
Hmm.
done so that we can maintain a hospital operating like it's supposed to. It's not a
Yeah.
hotel, it's a hospital.
Hmm.
They are both sick. So they
Mm.
both get admitted into the same room by accident or by chance, I mean.
Yeah.
And they are both facing life ending cancer.
Okay.
And they're total strangers, but since they're in the same room, they're both dying from different kinds of cancer. They kind of just like, well, we're here. We might as well get to know each other. And
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman ends up making a bucket list. And he does it at
Hmm.
first in terms of, or with the foresight of like, or not foresight, uh, just kind of the idea of he makes this list of stuff that he wished he would have actually put energy towards while he was healthy
Yeah.
instead of just saying like, well, I have time and just
Right.
procrastinating so many things. Well, Nicholson tells him, hey, we're both dying. I have money beyond belief and I'm not going to leave it to anyone because who fucking cares about my money?
Yeah.
So they decide, let's just start actually doing the bucket list. And the movie is like, they do a lot of fun, silly things.
Hmm.
Um, but the friendship is the heart of that story and the impact and the importance and kind of what that can actually do for a person
Hmm.
in good times and in like real dark times.
Especially, yeah.
It's such an awesome movie. And it's another one where like the first half, you're laughing. You're like, man, that green screen is the worst. It is. It really is. but but I forgive it because of what the movie is actually about.
Hmm.
And the last like half hour of the movie is just where it really starts getting you. And for me, it just like it doesn't just crack me. It is there's a moment, and then I'm sob fest for the rest of the movie,
Yeah.
and then I have to walk away when the credits roll and be like, I need to be alone. But I adore this movie. I think it's incredible film and the performances are awesome. It's fun and it's another one that really kind of makes you like reevaluate kind of where you're putting your energy. So
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I mean, time is so limited and it's more valuable than we give it credit for.
yeah.
That's true. Okay. My number 7 is maybe out of left field, maybe obvious. I don't know how people are going to feel about it, but it's My Girl,
Oh shit.
which I know
Oh shit.
I didn't anticipate that this movie would really be on my list, and then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, actually, it kind of is,
Oh
and I think
shit.
it's mostly not a sad movie. It's mostly a really nice movie about just a coming of age story about this girl, and she
Mostly.
mostly. I mean, her mom died in childbirth, and she didn't really get to know her. But Dan Aykroyd is her dad. He's really great. Jamie Lee Curtis is like his dad's new girlfriend that he hired, and then they start dating. It's very cute. Um, but the way the obviously the reason you're reacting the way you are, and the reason everybody else probably feels the same way, is because the scene everybody knows is she makes friends with Macaulay Culkin's character Thomas J, and they're very cute. They're kind of like young. It's first kind of blossomings of first love. They have a little first kiss, and it's very cute. And then he gets stung by a bee, and he's
Oh,
allergic to bees.
I get
And
stung by Several.
He gets stung by a lot of bees, like a whole nest of bees, because he was trying to find her mood ring that she lost, and he dies. And she's not ready for him to die, even though she's been around death her whole life. Her mom died. Her dad's a mortician. He's like, she knows all of these people who have died. But the thing that happens is he has a funeral, and she goes up to the coffin, and she's like, where are his glasses?
His glasses.
He can't see without his glasses. And there's something about children grieving that's just the worst. They shouldn't have to go through that. I don't know if that's what it is, but it feels so terrible. And you want her to not feel that, and she is, and it sucks. It's part of life. But the way that she just doesn't understand, and partly, I mean, she does, but she doesn't. It's just the worst, and so it makes me cry. It's a very generally pleasant movie, but that scene specifically is the worst.
Yeah, I never cry at Thomas J. passing. I don't even cry at the start of the funeral.
Yeah.
But when she looks at him and where his glasses comes out, Niagara Falls, man.
Yeah. I should be crying when his parents are crying. Like his mom is weeping, and I should identify with them.
Super this is so rough.
I'm like, that sucks. That's terrible.
But you nailed it on the head. There's something about children grieving in that sense and when she does it, it is like, oh shit.
Yeah, she does a good job of it.
Oh, freaking my girl. I knew it was on your list, Jake.
Because Christy posted about how much she loved it. We rewatched it, and I don't think she knew how much she loved it. And then she kind of changed her tune. She was like, you know what, I may not love it because nobody really like learns any big life lessons. There's not like a big ending or anything.
I think there's a huge life lesson.
What's the life lesson?
Well,
she just learns about like how life kind of continues on after you lose this guy, and she makes a new friend and all this stuff.
When I rewatched it, because I rewatched it for one of our episodes, I want to say it was for like one of our family episodes that we did.
Probably.
Was it that? Oh no, I watched it for the dad's episode.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Dan Aykroyd is great as her dad.
And to me, like as a kid, it follows a pretty similar formula, you know, tragedy, and then you're able to move on. Like you kind of have to move on. Yeah. When I rewatched it, though, I didn't take it as, oh, she's just moving on. Like Thomas J is just a memory for her now. I really took that movie, especially the funeral, because she spends so much of the movie kind of longing for death, and kind of like she constantly goes to the doctor to tell him like, oh, I'm dying. I have this symptom. I have this. She's
a hypochondriac.
She's around death constantly. Her dad's the mortician. They have corpses in the basement. She's not supposed to be down there, but like she has been down there.
Yeah.
So she's kind of, to me, she's always had a jaded view of tragedy and of death itself. And I think maybe not a lesson, but the experience of having it like a deeply personal connection to you all of a sudden, and how that will affect you and how you behave. Because there's no rationale to it, right? She's saying a dead kid needs his glasses. He can't see. She loses all rationale. I think the experience and just kind of her gaining a deeper understanding, something that, her dad couldn't teach her, something she had to experience herself. I think that ends up kind of being the big arc of the movie, is the importance of don't be jaded to stuff, because when it happens to you, and it inevitably happens, like you're not going to react how you expect you're going to react. Don't be jaded. If you need a lesson, that would be the lesson. But to me, I think that movie is really just about, I guess, cherishing what you got, right?
Yeah, and I think it helps her grieve her mom as well, who she's always kind of wished she had known, but never really got a chance to grieve her thoroughly. And now she has had a very close personal relationship that she has had to lose, and I think she keeps Thomas J alive, like she keeps her mom alive. They do a good job of continuing to talk about her, so yeah, as long as you don't forget him, he'll be around.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic pick, Jake.
Thank you.
It's such a good movie. The glasses, though. The goddamn glasses. Well, we're gonna go from tragedy to potentially one of the most uplifting, inspiring movies ever fucking made. And it's one that, like, when I was a kid, this was always one that my mom just always needed to put on. Like, if she was having a bad day, I remember she was like, I really just need to watch this movie. And we'd be like, oh, and I'd mock it because I was a little kid and stupid.
Yeah.
As I've grown older and I've rewatched it, I have fought the urge against it for so long.
Yeah.
But the last, like, 10 years, every time I've watched it, I'm like, there is no fighting this movie. This movie is just waterworks, like, because it's so powerful. It's so cool. My number 6 is Rudy.
Yeah.
It is legitimately one of the most inspiring films, and the whole thing that gets me is just how vital it is when you are passionate about something, when you are when you believe in yourself enough to achieve something, to maintain it, because you're not only going to have a huge effect on yourself, but the ripple effect around, for the people around you, the unsuspecting ones around you, that is such a cool kind of thing to aspire to, right? Like, Rudy makes you want to be a better person for yourself, but so that you can actually kind of have a good impact, like leave something good behind.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of people that try to get you to not do the thing that you want to do, because they'll say you're too small, you can't do it, you're not good enough, all that stuff, and you just need to not give up.
You just gotta keep pushing at it. You gotta just stay the course. It's super challenging, it's super demeaning sometimes, but I think that if we're able to continue pushing through stuff and be able to make it through, I mean, you can have that outcome. Rudy is just, and what awesome performances. I mean, everyone in this movie is so good. I totally forgot that Vince Vaughn is in this movie.
Yeah.
You don't even recognize him until that little bit of his voice, that very specific way he'll like deliver.
It does the Vince Vaughn thing. Yeah.
But yeah, when I rewatched it this week, I was just like, God damn it, I was so mad at his dad. I was so mad at his brothers. But then I was not mad at his dad because I kind of get where his dad's coming from. His dad's kind of in a weird spot because the generation that his dad is in is very much like, no, you work. This is what we do. You clock in, you work, you clock out. That's your life. Don't do, and you kind of get the sense like, one, he's raised with that mentality, but also he's trying to protect his son, who's always been kind of the runt of the family. Like, I just don't want to see my kid get hurt or let down even more than he already has through his whole life.
Right. The problem with having dreams is that they'll get shattered a lot before they actually come true. And so it's very painful, and you kind of don't want your kid to have to go through that. And as a parent,
you don't want to see your kids go through that kind of stuff. You want roses constantly for them, if you will.
Right.
But dude, the last game of the movie, when the dad is there, just the excitement, the way the whole film plays out is like, it gets me. I can't
No, I completely agree.
Oh my God, it's so powerful. It's so inspiring and invigorating that you're like, okay, what do I need to put more energy into? And it's like everything, but Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I know
Rudy
exactly what
is
you mean.
number 6. Kids, if you've never watched it, it's a true story.
Hmm.
It really happened. Go watch this movie. It's incredible.
It's fantastic. Okay, my number 6 is a love story,
Mhm.
but it's kind of a different kind of love
Ooh.
story because it's a it my I guess my number 6 is P.S. I Love You, and it's different because why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because it's an honorable mention of mine.
Okay. I didn't know if you're gonna give me shit for it
Yeah,
or if you actually
it's
were on the
such a
same page.
beautiful movie. I fucking hate it so much.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's very accurate. It's a movie all about love and grief, basically, because this couple are very much in love, but they're fighting. They're a normal couple, a normal life. And then when one of them dies, like immediately at the beginning of the movie, and and so Gerard Butler dies, and Hilary Swank is just left not really knowing what to do
Yeah.
because she had this whole life planned out and ahead of her with him, and now he's gone. But he's so great because he knows how hard it's going to be for her, and he wants to make it as easy as possible for her. So he has posthumously planned out messages and like voice messages and letters and things to like help her grieve, help her not get over, but just be able to go back to life, like
Yeah.
not get sucked into grief too much, kind of get her out into the world, get her doing stuff, get her on a trip, like get her able to meet new people and just move on with her life so that she doesn't stay stuck, because he knows kind of the person that she is and what she needs. And I think that's so thoughtful and brilliant to do. Like, I aspire to be that mindful, to actually, if I'm in that situation, not think of like, oh, it sucks, I'm going to die, but actually think it's going to impact all of these
Right.
people, specifically the one person I care about the most. I want her to be okay, so I'm going to do all these things to help facilitate that. And the journey of the movie and her whole journey is really great. Obviously, Hilary Swank's a great actress, so she plays it super well. But just the whole movie of overcoming grief and doing it in a creative way, I guess it's a great movie.
It is a great movie. It's one that I remember watching it and thinking I would hate it, and then when it ended, it was like, shit.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay, that was really good, but I'm so mad at it because I totally get you, Jake.
Yeah,
There's moments throughout that movie that just like that they prod you, like you know it's coming. It's like the movie's like, oh, you're still trying not to cry. That's cute. Watch
right.
this.
Yeah, here's one more thing.
Oh, that's a great pick. Yeah, and Gerard Butler does such a good job. And he's
Yeah,
got like a great voiceover voice.
yeah, for sure, he does.
Like, it worked. I don't know if it was just for that movie really, but I remember the letters because they do like his voiceover for some of the letters and stuff, or the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good voiceover work.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good pick, man. That's a good pick. Well, I tried not to laugh earlier when you brought up a Will Smith movie that makes people cry that is not Pursuit of Happiness.
Okay.
Because I too have a Will Smith movie on my list that makes people cry that is not Pursuit of Happiness. So I was
Okay.
like, oh, look at Jake and I. Okay. This is one I've actually mentioned it a couple times before on our show. It's kind of a Christmas movie because it takes place during Christmas time. So I watch it every Christmas, but it's Collateral Beauty.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Okay. So
I can picture the cover though.
it is a tough movie to get through because of the content of the film. So the whole movie is this guy who runs this company with very inspiring, stout principles, and they all center around I forget how they're like the three. I think they're just called the three principles of life or whatever, but it's love, time, and death.
Okay.
And he runs a company with the mentality of how do we enrich those three principles? How do we make people's lives improve the quality of it? How do we put people before us? Do this,
Yeah.
positivity. And then his daughter dies.
Okay.
And the movie goes from him being like this inspiring guy that runs the company to absolute despair, all within the opening credits.
Okay.
And the movie ends up being just his journey, but through the eyes of his partners, who kind of in a shitty friendship way, but it's understandable because the company is about to go under unless they sell the company. But they can't sell the company without his approval, and he doesn't talk to anyone anymore. He doesn't do anything except build domino mazes. And so they hire these actors to play characters to kind of force him, because he ends up writing 3 letters to time, love, and death, kind of calling those things out. And so his partners use those letters, and they hire the actors to play those 3 characters, and they kind of set him up. They do it in a way to set him up to prove like, oh, he's not all there mentally, so that he is forced to give up his shares. Anyways, it doesn't sound very good when I explain it, but when you watch the movie, or at least when I watch the movie, there's so much heart to it, and it's so powerful and meaningful and just deep on grief and how hard it is sometimes to just be honest about the bad things in our lives.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the movie is really about, is just owning up to that stuff and being okay to talk about it. And it gets me every time. And Smith's performance in it, it's honestly my favorite of his. I think he does a better job in this movie than he did in Pursuit. No offense, don't at me.
Okay. Interesting.
But he's very powerful in this movie. And he spends the movie trying to go to a support group. He even joins a couple times, but as soon as they ask him if he wants to speak, he literally just can't, and he's got to leave.
Yeah.
And I've never dealt with the death of a child, but like, I get that, where something so tragic or so bad happens to you that when people know you need to get it off your chest, you need to talk about it, but you just can't. Like, I've been there. Collateral Beauty. I fucking love this movie so much.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely need to check it out. I think it's been on my list, but I don't think really knew what it was about. I just knew it was a Will Smith movie that people have said good things about. So now I definitely will.
It's a deep film. I take a lot from it. I know some people are like, oh, it sucked because it's not the perfectly made film, but it gets me every time. I fucking love that movie so much.
Okay, I like it. My number 5 is probably pretty cliche. I'm probably gonna get some grief for it, but it's cliche because it's true. My number 5 is Marley and Me, because I dare you to watch that movie and not get sad. Like, it's not just because it's sad because the dog dies. Spoiler alert. Obviously, everybody knows that, probably. It's like saying the dog dies an Old Yeller. Yeah, everybody knows the dog dies.
Yeah.
But it's not because the dog dies. It's because they had this whole life together. And there are so many times where the dog was incredibly annoying and incredibly frustrating and destructive and out of control. And you want to get rid of it and you don't know what to do with it and all this stuff. But you can't deny that he's part of your life. And so the point of the story is that in spite of all of the hardships, that dog is part of your family, and he's an animal, is perfectly what he is, but he's also so pure and devoted, and
Yeah.
he is just perfect. And so when you get to the end of his life, and it's incredibly unfair that dogs have such short lives compared to people, that's bullshit. Whoever came up with the simulation we're living in, we need to have a talk, because that's not cool. But that's also, I think, beautiful in the sense that time is so limited, and we kind of take our lives for granted because our lives are pretty long. And so it's hard to imagine kind of what the course of our life is going to be. If you live a long life, your natural life, it's going to be long, and so it kind of doesn't matter if you waste time now. But if you cut that in half, or if you shrink it down to 10, 15 years, and that's your whole life with this person who you love, who's a dog in this case, that's you makes you see the world differently, and it makes you appreciate time differently, even the bad times. You just look back fondly forever. And so it's cliche, but obviously a cry of Marley and Me, and it has to be in the middle of my list.
Only thing I'm shocked at is that it's not higher on your list. I'm with you. I dare you, watch Marley and Me and have a dry eye at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
I have not watched it since I had a family pet pass away, because I'm just not there. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Period.
Too fresh forever.
Yeah. I imagine for you, it's probably even deeper of a connection, considering you've got two pups who are awesome and irritating and hilarious and destructive. And
they're all those things. And so, yes, I feel that way. But then, and then I look at them and I'm like, you're 2 and 3. And I just imagine being Owen Wilson at the end with them, being grateful for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, it just makes you appreciate every moment
like,
that you have.
Come here, Wesley.
Exactly.
Oh, your dogs. I miss your pups. That's such a good pick. Cliche or not, it's a good pick.
Thank you.
All right. Number 4. So I also had to chuckle kind of quietly to myself that you brought up a movie that Robin Williams is a supporting character in, is not in the entire thing, but has the biggest impact and breaks your goddamn heart.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's okay. Good Will Hunting, that'll turn on the faucets early, even before Williams passed away.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is Dead Poets Society.
Obviously.
Yeah. This movie is also one known for pulling those heartstrings.
Yeah.
His words, though, in Good Will Hunting and in this are harder and kind of more important to hear and absorb now that he's gone.
Yeah.
I was not prepared. Like, I watched it. I knew I was going to cry at it because I always cry at it.
Yeah.
I was not prepared how hard I was going to cry at it this time around.
Yeah.
For those who have not seen Dead Poet Society, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. You need to.
It is about a group of boys who go to this Catholic, it is high-end, very successful, rigorous Catholic school. And the parents are overbearing. They're very stifling. The staff is very stifling. And of course, Robin Williams is a new teacher who is not stifling at all. In fact, he
Yeah.
encourages the importance of freeing yourself from these kinds of boundaries so that you can tap into creativity, the importance of creativity. And then what really hit me this time around, because the movie's always gotten me because of like one specific part. Everyone knows who's seen it, knows the part.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Yeah. But this time around, dude, it started hitting me way early on. And it was because I've been on such a, over the last few years, really, well, years, um, of just the importance of storytelling and how much I love storytelling. And
Mm-hmm.
we've already talked about it on this. The whole show's kind of based on that, of celebrating storytelling, and how important it is, and how much of a positive impact it can have on your life, especially starting at a younger age, where you
Mm-hmm.
learn how it's okay to relax.
Yeah.
There's a time when you got to be serious, and then there's way more time for you to just enjoy life, because life is fleeting. And
Right.
that's the point of storytelling, is sharing all of these life emotions, experiences, love, life, all of it, expressing it new ways, fun ways. Who cares about the perfect structure?
Mm-hmm.
Dead Poet Society, so it's about that group of boys. Williams is the teacher, and some of the students go through some pretty interesting moments, especially the teachers, and the staff. But yeah,
Yeah.
I won't spoil it, folks. Of course, you've probably heard the line. Jake already said it. Oh, Captain, my
Yeah.
Captain is, what an incredible thing. We talked about, bear with me. This is one of my crazy connections.
Okay, I'm ready.
We talked about the nostalgia factor with Roadhouse being not necessarily nostalgic in like, oh, back in that time, but nostalgic in
Yeah.
the idea that growing up as a kid, you wanted to be that stranger who shows up into the town, saves the town, moves on.
Yeah.
Dead Poet Society, to me, is kind of the grown up version of that.
Yeah.
Kind of quieter. It's still the idea of you're that person that shows up, not necessarily saves the town or saves the day, but you're the
Mm-hmm.
person that shows up and can change a life for the better.
Yeah.
And then you can move on. That's
Mm-hmm.
Dead Poet Society to me.
Yeah. Impart wisdom or
Right.
equip them with the tools to succeed in life.
Yeah. Even through tough times, some of the hardest of times.
Yeah.
Dead Poets was like, I watched it again this week. I'm just sobbing my eyes out. And I'm like, not only is this such an incredible, powerful film, but I was like, this is just shamefully, I think, has kind of been forgotten to
Mm-hmm.
memes or just over time. I think people should revisit it and learn,
Yeah.
stop fucking taking everything so serious. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
so yeah. God damn it, Robin Williams.
Yeah, it was an honorable mention for me as well. It was, I think, my first honorable mention. It was almost on my list. My number 4 is an animated children's movie
Oh
that
God.
you would think would
Oh
be
God.
fun, but is the saddest movie of all
Of all
time.
time.
My number 4 is Fox and the Hound. I don't know why this movie is the saddest movie of all time. Maybe it's because there's 2 beautiful, innocent children, dogs, a dog and a fox, who are, society says, should be mortal enemies, but they're so innocent that they just become friends.
Like,
and then they
the
commit to
bestest
being
friends.
best friends forever. And then life kind of beats them down in a way that forces them into their quote unquote role. Like,
Yep.
Copper is supposed to be a hunting dog, and so he can't be friends with the fox. He's supposed to help them kill the fox. And so beautiful Todd is just wants to stay friends, and the way that this movie, first of all, the beginning of the movie is scarier and sadder than Bambi. People say Bambi is sad, but the beginning is worse because the like very first scene is the mom carrying this tiny little pup in her mouth and running from these dogs barking and these hunters shooting at her, and then she dies. And like the worst part of Bambi, like the climax of Bambi, is the beginning of this movie. That's how sad it is. And then this little orphaned fox is adopted by this sweet old lady, and then meets Copper, and they become friends. When they grow up, though, their struggle to like, we're supposed to be friends. You betray, like they are kind of have to betray each other and betray each other's trust, and just the conflict again of like their actual nature is to be like friends with each other, because that they're not that different. They're a fox and a dog, like they're not that different, but the society tells them they can't be friends, and they need to fit into this. So it's just the way that, and it's also not a happy ending. Most like Disney movies,
There's like nothing happy about Fox and the Hound.
Yeah, it's like it's not the worst. It's a little, but it's bittersweet at best, because most Disney movies have a happy ending, so I think it catches people off guard as part of it. But yeah, they don't. There's just no like, hey, let's be friends moment. It's this is the way it is. You're gonna go your way.
Yeah.
I have to go to a protected preserve, and it's the worst.
There is nothing. It is the least affirming, positive Disney movie ever made.
Yeah.
Not only is it a shattered friendship, or nay, shattered brotherhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you see, one of the dogs is like severely injured, could potentially die from injuries. You know, the mentor.
Yeah. Chief.
Todd and Copper have to like, basically they're broken apart. Like there is no coming back to it, right?
Yeah.
The worst part, the cherry on top of all of it, is the old lady has to abandon Todd.
Yeah.
Are you
she can't.
Fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it would be one thing if she could just keep him as a pet forever, but she's forced to let him go,
Right.
and takes him to a game preserve or whatever to like stay safe, but not with her. And it's just the saddest.
It's the worst. It's so it's an honorable mention. It would probably be on my list, but I could not bring myself to watch it.
Okay.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. Like, I had it on Disney Plus. It was ready to go, and I just stared at the screenshot and was like, "No, nope."
That's like, it's extra funny to me because I know the movies that you have subjected yourself to recently,
Right.
with like a Serbian film and Cannibal Holocaust and all this stuff. But Fox and the Hound, I will not watch.
It is fire. The irony is not lost on me. Don't worry. The difference being, Jake, is I know exactly where Fox and the Hound goes.
It's true.
And losing friendships, losing deep friendships, sucks. And that movie just like highlights that. And it's like, oh, you lost this friend. I hate that movie. I don't hate it. I shouldn't say that, but it's
impactful.
That is a tragic story.
Yeah.
Tragic story. I was like, it's on my honorable because I didn't rewatch it, but it needs to be spoken about. And I was like, Jake's probably going to be an asshole, and he's going to have it.
I have it at number 4.
Oh. Man, I wish I could say we're going to move on to a movie with like a super happy, uplifting ending, but we're not.
No, probably not.
Man, top 3.
Top 3?
All right. My number 3. It's another movie that inspired a Disney animated feature that is not
Okay.
heartbreaking, doesn't make you tear up in the least bit. It's just a super fun story. But this movie fucking bulldozes me every
Okay.
time I watch it. It just like, I'm dead in the water every time I watch this movie.
All right.
So my number 3 is Finding Neverland.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So if you don't know the movie, it is the story of the inspiration behind J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan and the family that kind of inspired him to come up with that whole story. And it is a beautiful film. I know it gets a lot of flack for not being accurate completely, right? Fuck you. It's
Yeah, it's a good
again,
story.
it's a beautiful story of a J.M. Barrie is kind of down. He's had failure. He's kind of he's lost track with a lot of stuff. His marriage is pretty much over. He has no clue how to actually connect with the world around him in a reality space.
Mm-hmm.
He does escape into stories. He uses storytelling as his way of connecting, his way of kind of explaining life to himself almost. And I love his philosophy of like just choosing to see magic and creativity in anything, no matter how mundane and how enriching that is for a life. And then he
Yeah.
meets the family and they just become like an actual family together. I mean, the movie doesn't go into any romantic stuff between him and Kate Winslet's character, which I actually appreciate. He's
Yeah.
just a part of the family, as I discussed. But the whole story, the whole idea of their impact on him and being able to like connect with people on a new level, and they do it all through playing and just creativity and the storytelling and all that. He's able to actually kind of grow up to the point where he has to be an actual mentor and he has to handle something that is very real and very hard to deal with, especially when it involves children. And he has to kind of take that on his shoulders and he can't play with it anymore. He has to be serious. And I love that growth. I love showing how the two kind of help each other grow as people, become better people for it. And then, of course, Peter Pan is just a fun story, and seeing kind of a pseudo origin of it is fun. But it's a powerful film, and the last 10 minutes of the film is incredible. Yeah. Number 3 is Finding Neverland.
Okay.
I'm going to start welling up if I keep going on it. So
it's been a really long time since I've seen it. I feel like I need to, but I probably will give it a little time before I get around to it. Just because I completely believe you that it is very powerful.
There is there are several moments that I tear up at, but there is a very specific moment that just wrecks me. And I know it's coming up, and I'm watching it. I watched it last week, and I'm like, here it comes. I fucking know it. Here it comes. Be prepared. You're not going to do it this time. No, done.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So good. It's so beautiful.
All right, my number 3 is a movie that is often talked about when you talk about the best movies ever made, but it isn't, I don't think, talked about very often when you talk about movies that make you cry, even though it's an incredibly emotional movie. And so I think that it should, and that's why it's my number 3. My number 3 is Saving Private Ryan. Ooh. Because every piece of that movie, it's exciting in the sense that you see the chaos and just how incredible and kinetic the battles are. It puts you in that and you live it and you understand what those people went through and like as much as you possibly could. Like I could never do it unless I was actually in it, but I feel like I understand more what our grandparents went through and what people around the world have gone through throughout time. And that is very, I think, good and emotional to actually understand what they went through and what it's actually like, and what war means to these people. But to see it specifically from the lens of this old man, and when he goes to the cemetery at Normandy that first time and sees all those graves, there's something about seeing an old man cry that is incredibly powerful. And maybe it's because you don't see it very often,
Yeah.
so it means more. But when he just breaks, you're like, oh my God. and to think about why he's so moved by that place and by those people, specifically the people around him, who impacted his life, it's so amazing. And the whole movie is that, basically, like all the different characters, from Vin Diesel, from Caparzo, who, when he is ignoring orders and trying to help take this little girl off of the this broken house, and he's going to take her with him just to keep her safe because the father asked him to, and then gets shot and is bleeding out in the street, and the rest of the guys can't get to him because the sniper's putting him down, and he just pulls out the letter that he wants him to take to his mom.
Yeah.
and he doesn't make it, and so that letter is then carried like a torch by several different people as they recreate it, because it had blood and rain, like it got washed
Well,
out.
yeah,
and all
he
this
tells
stuff.
them, like, it's one of his last lines is, you got to rewrite it because there's blood on it.
Yeah. And so the way the medic takes it, and he dies, and the next guy takes it, and so it just becomes this thing that they're trying to get back home, and just so that they can know, like, his mom can get that letter, and all of those, like, things, all those little details, it just adds up to so much. Not just saving this guy and
Right.
what that means. Like, all of the battles are very, very awesome and cool and interesting, and all the details and how the movie is made, and there's so much to the movie that makes it great. But the quiet moments in between, when they're talking and they're just having a conversation in the church, or they're talking about different things, the way that they relate, or the way they talk about, like, what this means, or is it worth it, or it's specifically when Tom Hanks is talking to Private Ryan, to Matt Damon, and he's dying, and he is at the very end, and he says, earn
Yep.
this, because because so many people died to give you this opportunity. And then you see him as an old man, and he asks his wife, like, am I a good man?
Right.
Did I earn it? Like, did I do
Oh,
enough
dude.
to actually be worth the sacrifice of these people? Like, it will make me cry every goddamn time. And it's like, I don't feel like war movies are supposed to do that, but Steven Spielberg does that.
I remember it's my favorite war film ever.
Period.
It's one of the most impacting films, especially like war film specifically, but just in general, because the story of it, I think, is more. The intensity is so different because when you watch it at a young age, or the first time you watch that movie, everyone watches it for the one reason: it's the battle scenes. You're gonna watch the movie for the battle scenes.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's the quiet scenes that I think are equally intense, but on a different, different
Right.
level or whatever, different plane. A couple of the scenes that get me is obviously earn this. I will never, ever, 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 ever make it past that point with a dry eye.
Yeah.
There's so much to it, but the parts that really start like resonating and just kind of grounding you so much more is one of the speeches that Tom Hanks gives, where he talks about, is this mission worth it? And he flat out says, like, if this gives me the chance just to get back home so I can see my wife again, then yeah, it's worth it. If this helps us be able to do the mundane things back home, yes, this is worth it. And it's so intense because that it's such a like heightened scene at that point. The intensity is so and the medic, has anyone made it through the medic without crying?
That's and I love his character, and I love, I guess, the arc, because he has that scene in the church where he's just telling a story about how sometimes his mom would work late and he'd be in bed when she would come home, and he would pretend to be asleep so he didn't have to like get up and talk to her, and he kind of regrets it a little bit. And then when they storm that machine gun nest, and his guts are everywhere and they can't save him, and because he's the medic, he's the one who's supposed to know how to fix people. His last words are like, "Mama, like Mama, I want to go home, Mama," and it's just the worst.
Fucking Giovanni Ribisi.
He's great.
Yeah, Saving Private Ryan it's such a profound film. Like that is cinema in so many areas, and Steven Spielberg is brilliant. I mean, I love that he has so many movies in his filmography that are just silly, that are fun, that are just loving, and just like they don't, they're just there.
A lot of variety.
But when he sits down and is like, so here's a dramatic movie, and you're like, oh,
oh, you mean dramatic? Movie.
And he does that a lot. I think Saving Private Ryan it's one of those movies that came out. It can't be replicated. The impact it made just can't. We're never going to have that again. It's one of those movies to me where you're not going to experience that again. Right. I think so many movies try. You're not going to do it.
I will never get over the fact that it did not win the Best Picture and it lost to Shakespeare.
I was going to say that was Shakespeare in Love, right? Which is a movie that everybody has forgotten even exists.
Yeah, I think that's one of the worst fuck ups in Oscar history.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good pick. Oh, this.
Yep. All right, number two.
So number two is a movie that was previously on my top 10 drama list from way back in the day.
Yeah.
But was replaced with The Truman Show.
Okay.
So my number two is a movie that, since I was a kid and saw this, I have never made it through this movie. I figured, sometimes movies come along that will have a deep impact on you or whatever. And over time, the more you watch it, you don't emotionally respond the same way. You still love it, but you're kind of like, okay, I was prepared. No, not with this movie. I'm never going to make it through this goddamn movie. It's a movie that no one's ever heard of, which is a shame because it's awesome. It's The Cure. It's from 1995. It's with the kid from Jurassic Park. He played Tim, and it's got Brad Renfro in it as a young Brad Renfro.
Okay.
So The Cure is about
1995.
Yeah. It's about two boys. One, he lives with his mom. His mom is a workaholic who is kind of abusive and neglectful, kind of a bitch. And his dad has abandoned him, just gone. So he's kind of a wannabe bully, but he's a messed up kid just looking for anyone to give a shit.
Yeah.
And the other boy has AIDS. And lives with his single mom, who's just doing everything she possibly can to make life comfortable enough for her boy until that fateful day is going to come, which no one knows when that day is going to come.
Yeah. that there's like no cure for AIDS,
Right.
especially in the 90s, and unless you're Magic Johnson and have a bunch of money.
Right. So the movie is about this kid who should be a cliche, just against the world completely, befriends this kid with AIDS and takes it upon himself, I'm going to be the one to find the cure. So they develop this incredible friendship, and they test like different plants around town, like if we boil it like tea, maybe. And he flat out says, like, how do you think any medicine was ever discovered? People
Yeah.
had to do it, so we're gonna do it that way. And
Yeah, he's not wrong.
he's not wrong. And the mom of the boy with AIDS, she immediately is like, I love, they don't do the cliche thing where she's like adverse to the friendship, where she thinks like, oh, you're just gonna bully her, like,
Yeah. Stop hanging out with him.
She embraces it so much. And I love the honesty about it. I love that they do show people thinking, because this was in the time period where everyone thought like if someone had AIDS, anyone around them was going to die on the spot.
Yeah. It's super contagious.
Right. And it's just watching that friendship and then watching both of them kind of learn that there is more to life than just what they've kind of been rooted in.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say about the kid with AIDS, because he has a fun life, but he gets to experience something that he never expected to, which is connection with anyone besides his mom.
Yeah.
It's such an incredible film. It's so fun.
And that's such an important thing to experience, just to feel like you had a full life.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just, I adore this film. It's so powerful and it's so good. And just watching these two together is incredible. Just the lengths they go to for friendship is just like, yes. So The Cure, look it up, guys.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of this movie in my whole life, but I will definitely look it up and get it.
I mean, give it a little time, Jake, because
yeah, it sounds very sad, but also beautiful at the same time, which is what you want. That's good. Okay. Well, I guess you referenced an old episode. My number 2 was also on a previous episode. I actually did have it on a top 10 list in the past, so you might give me some grief for this, but it's been a long time. And I feel like if we're just being honest about the top 10 movies that make us cry, it has to be on the list because it's at number 2. And I know you were a big fan of this movie. You've talked endlessly about it, especially when I brought it up the first time. So my number 2 is The Notebook. Dustin hates The Notebook. He doesn't think it's a good movie. He's wrong in all regards, and so I'm about to tell you why. I shit you not. I cry at The Notebook. I love this goddamn movie. And I'm not afraid to admit it, because there's a lot of reasons. First of all, it's a beautiful love story. I love love stories. Love stories are great. But the best part about it, for spoiler alert for The Notebook, if you don't know, it's not just about this like cute young couple who fall in love and then fall out of love and spend time apart and fall in love again. That's great. But the best part of The Notebook is this old couple who are in a hospital or whatever, old folks home, hospice or whatever, getting taken care of. And James Garner reads to her, this woman who she seems to have just met, but she also has Alzheimer's and dementia, and they may have met several times, and he just reads to her this story. And then you find out that he's reading to her because he's in love with her, and because they've been in love their whole life. They've been married, they've had children together, and when his children come and visit and they meet her, quote unquote meet her, but she doesn't recognize them, because even though they're her children and her grandchildren, And through the course of the movie, he's reading to her so that she remembers her life and remembers their love story and all of this stuff. And then she does remember, like, there is a brief window where the dementia lifts and she remembers him and she asks him how the kids are doing, and it's just the most beautiful thing ever. And then that moment passes and she slips away and she forgets and she gets really upset that he's like hugging her and is a stranger and all this stuff, and it's so sad and so tragic. And just for him to not give up on that even though it's the hardest thing in the world for her to not know him, and also there's a brief glimmer of joy sometimes, but it's also met with complete heartbreak right after every time, kind of like in a 51st Dates kind of way, where he's dating her new every day, but there's no real hope in her remembering him. But for him to not give up on that, for him to just, this is what I'm going to do. I love her. She's my person. And I could, like, the kids try to talk him into like not doing this. He's like, it's pointless. He's like, this is just what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it forever. And so he does, and he's committed to it. And I think that's beautiful. And then when they die together, holding hands in the bed, it's just the perfect ending to that goddamn movie. I love it so much. And so you're wrong for not loving it, is my point.
I don't even have a rebuttal.
All right.
I like hearing you talk about it. The movie just
I'm not even doing it justice. The movie is so much better than I'm giving it credit for. Me trying to describe it is worse than its actual storytelling that it accomplishes. You see their whole relationship. You see the struggles. It's very honest. They like fight a lot. They have all these problems. They spend time apart. She almost marries another guy. It goes for decades. This whole story spans. And then you see them as old people who have gone through this whole thing and they're still going through it. That's just great, man.
Now,
it's great.
I'm pretty positive, although I've never been a fan of the movie. Now, I also haven't watched the movie for a very, very long time.
Okay.
And when did that come out?
2004.
Holy shit, it came out in 2004?
18 years ago.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
No.
Might be worth a revisit. That's what it says.
Wow.
I'm double checking.
Okay,
Since you're really good with dates. Yeah, it is. 2004.
When I saw it, I was in high school.
Yeah. Like sophomore or junior in high school. Sophomore?
I was a junior. I graduated in 05. Come on, man.
Oh, I graduated in 06.
Oh. Yeah, come on, man. So let's hear. I watched it in 2004. So I was some punk moron 15-year-old, 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to hate The Notebook when I watch it at that age.
Yeah, I first watched it thinking that I was going to make fun of it the whole time. I mean, I think I did make fun of it the whole time. I partly watched it because girls wanted to watch it, and I was like, yeah, that'll be totally whatever. I don't care, and I'll make fun of it the whole time. It'll be great. And then I liked it, and I didn't want to tell anybody I liked it because then they'd make fun of me. But now I'm a 35-year-old man, and I can say I like
The Notebook. Don't give a shit anymore. That's good.
That's right.
I saw it. I've seen it multiple. Well, I had to have seen it at least 3 times because I saw it in high school, and then I remember my ex-wife read the book, and we watched it again a couple times after that because she loved it. I've already told you I think we need to revisit films that we've never been fans of.
Yeah.
So it's on.
That's going to be number 1 with the
It's on record. I wouldn't put it number 1, but it's on record. if we do a revisiting episode of movies we don't like,
Mhm.
just for you, I
Okay.
will rewatch The Notebook.
I appreciate that.
At least I'm willing, as someone who's never
Yeah.
been a fan,
It
at
means a
least
lot to
I'm
me.
willing to rewatch it, and I will watch it from your perspective of like it's a good story.
Hmm.
I will watch it with an open mind.
Okay. I appreciate that.
See, yeah. See, I'm a good friend. I really
You're a
don't like
great
that
friend.
movie though. For those that haven't
You
been with
only
us
think you
for
don't like it. You don't actually know where you're at these days.
true, it might break me, and I'll be like Jacob crying at it.
Yeah.
Um, fun thing for those that haven't been with us the whole time, back when we were
Mm,
recording in the same room,
yeah.
I did get Jake a giant fucking Notebook poster. And as a joke, you moved it twice. You had it
Yeah.
behind you for a little while, so I was forced to look at it.
Yeah.
And then you moved it behind me so that it was always, if we did pictures or video,
Yeah.
it was my backdrop because
Yeah.
you're a dick.
Yeah. That's true. I am. But I appreciate you getting me the poster. That was very nice.
Yeah. I'm shocked it's not your number one. Now I'm super intrigued what your number one's
Oh,
going to
you're
be.
going to like my number one. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't think we've ever talked about it, but it's a good one.
Okay. Well, my number one is the most recent movie that's come out.
Okay.
It came out. Shit, what year? Came out in 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
This movie, I went in figuring, yeah, I'll probably have a little bit of feels during this movie, but it shouldn't be too bad. I'm just excited to see this guy play this character. This will be great. And then I watched it, and the movie is almost 2 hours, and I spent pretty much the entire time in tears
Okay.
because of not only the perfect portrayal of this character, but because of how the movie is set up, how it's filmed, and how the fourth wall is constantly broke, and the movie is made to call you out on everything in your life, but not in a aggressive manner. It's a very just put it on the table, kind of just a matter of fact. These are the issues people deal with. How do you deal with it? Like, that's a part in the movie where they break the fourth wall and they're just talking to you. So my number one is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's the movie that Tom Hanks played Mr. Rogers.
Yep.
This is a tough one for me to get through.
Yeah, understandably so.
There are scenes. I mean, the opening of the movie is the opening of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, like the old show that we watched. The whole film is made this way, like an episode.
Yeah.
And the opening scene is Mr. Rogers coming, well, Tom Hanks is Rogers, coming through, doing the opening and talking to you, the audience, like he talked to the kids back in the day. And it's like right out the gate. He wants to show you pictures of people. And it's just the ambience of it is like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to be peaceful. But when I went and saw it, I was not at peace at all when I saw it. And the couple times I've watched it since then, well, actually, I've only watched the movie twice. I'll be honest. I've watched the movie twice. Once in the theater and then once for this week because I knew it was going to be on my list. I figured it'd be farther down the list, but rewatching it, it was just like, nope. There's a reason this movie is not a all the time watch. There's a reason this movie I can go 3 years without watching it, and when I watch it again, it is just as deeply impactful and meaningful and very much forcing me to reevaluate stuff. I mean, they talk about what do you do when you're angry? How do you react? Most people might, lash out. There are other ways to do it. How would you do it? And it's very just like, oh God. There's a part where he's trying to put a tent together and he can't do it. And they ask him, like, why don't you just have someone set the tent up and just put it together? And he flat out says, well, because people need to know things don't always work out, and that's okay. And it's just like, shit. Like,
yeah.
There is
Mr. Rogers is one of the most special human beings to have ever lived.
It's true.
And just all the stories you hear about him and
it's
how
incredible.
mindful he was of this show for children and kind of what they needed to know. Like I could make a very entertaining show that everything works out, but it's more important that they learn it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, how do you deal with that frustration or whatever, and just help them through life as best he can. It's so good.
There's a scene in the movie. It's a pretty, for those that saw the movie, everyone will mention one specific scene. It is 1 minute of silence, and it is, it is a heavy scene. And it's one where, like, I can feel I'm already crying during the movie, and then this scene comes up, and they even tell you it's coming. Like, they flat out tell you, we're going to do an exercise. I just want you to sit for 1 minute in silence. And he tells them what the exercise actually is. I won't say it. I want you guys to go just watch it and do the exercise. It is probably, in terms of movies or storytelling wise, the 60 seconds of silence is probably the most, I guess the closest word I can come up to it would be, it is the most spiritual moment I've ever experienced in a movie.
Yeah.
It is insane. And I've tried getting, like, my family to watch the movie, and they won't. And they're like, we know it's going to make us cry. We're just not there. And I'm like, there is a moment, literally, that I want you to witness and just experience, because it is unlike anything I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah.
It's Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is just so profound. I can't believe I'm not, like, crying right now. I'm actually kind of holding it in.
Well, movies are always so, like, passive. You're just watching them and being told the story. But for that to break the fourth wall, to talk to you specifically, to ask you to participate in a minute of doing this thing, that's kind of different. Like, that's pretty unique for a movie to get you involved in the actual story itself.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
By the time the movie ends, every time, well, the 2 times I've watched it, when I saw it in the theater, I couldn't move.
Yeah.
The credits rolled. I just sat there. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And when I watched it this last week, immediately I, like, hightailed it to the bathroom, grabbed the Kleenex, and was like, I need to breathe. Like, what the fuck? Because the movie to me doesn't just make me cry. It is like sobbing. It is those heavy breaths. It is.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It might not hit everyone the same way, but that movie, clearly I'm still working through a lot, because that movie brings up a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's what I love about movies and stories, is how they can help us. It's kind of like therapy, like free therapy, in a way that you just get to work through stuff all the time. And it's so helpful, I think, because we connect with those stories in different ways at different times in our life. Like a movie that you feel something about now, you won't feel 10 years from now, just because you're in a different place. And it's so cool.
Yep. So that's my number one.
That's a great one. Absolutely. I think that's very commendable. My number one is a movie that I saw a long time ago and I thought was really cool. I like the idea of it. But lately, especially after having become a father, it's just become a terribly beautiful but also powerful film. And I don't know if you've seen it, so I'm excited to talk about it because it hasn't come up on the show before. It's called Life is Beautiful.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's from 1997, directed and co-written, and it stars Roberto Benigni.
Yeah.
He actually won the Best Actor for this movie over Tom Hanks from Saving Private Ryan,
Yep.
which is kind of wild. It's just an unbelievably beautiful movie. It probably could be closer in my top 10 because it's about this guy. The first half of the movie is not sad at all. The first half of the movie is fun. It's just about this guy who's in Italy. It's an Italian movie. He's living in Italy. He's just like a fun, kind of smooth talking guy, really funny, very good physical comedy. And he meets a girl and they kind of have a cute moment together. They kind of keep bumping into each other and they kind of start forming this romance. And during this time, there's just kind of like mentions or things in the background of like there's kind of starting to be a little bit of racism against Jews. It's in Italy. It's in the 30s, and the people are kind of doing some fascist salutes and stuff. The Italian government's a little bit
He's laying
shady.
the clues on thick, folks.
But it's pretty darn subtle for the first half of the movie. And so there's this romance. He meets this girl, and they end up getting married, and then there's kind of a time jump, and they have a little boy together, and they're just living happily as a family. And their son is probably 6 or 7 years old, and they're just hanging out. And then by the time their son is 6 or 7 years old, of course, it is the height of World War II, and they get picked up as Jews and taken to a concentration camp. And it sounds like it will be the most sad and depressing thing ever. But the reason I love this movie is that it's not. It is. I mean, it's complicated, but it also is very hopeful because this guy, I love his role as a father in the sense that he wants to this is the most terrifying thing that could happen to any human being, is that you are being scooped up by all these German soldiers who just invaded your country, and they're shipping you off to a work camp, and you're being separated from your wife because all the women and the men have to be separate and all this stuff, and you're essentially imprisoned for not doing anything wrong. That's terrifying. But this guy chooses to protect his son's like mind from it, and he tries to make it a game. Like he tries to make it fun for him so that he's not afraid. He doesn't have all of the trauma of this whole experience impacting his whole life. So the kid is relatively oblivious to what's going on because his dad is like, it's a game. We're going on this trip because your birthday's coming up and you said you wanted to go somewhere for your birthday, so here we go, we're going on this, and all of these people they're in on this game with us. And so he starts saying like, we're in this place, it's kind of like a camp that they have activities, and we need to earn points, and whoever gets to 1,000 points gets to win a tank, like a real life tank, because the kid's like a kid. He's like, that tank is awesome. And the dad's like, well, you can win it if we like play by these rules and don't tell anybody about this game. And he does all these different things to like help him believe that there's nothing wrong and that everything's okay. And the way he does it, and the way that he kind of like gets through it, is so incredible, in spite of the fact that he himself is terrified.
Oh yeah.
But he can't show it to his son. He has to go and work in this factory during the day and carry anvils and do all this stuff that's very hard labor, and people are dying, people are being taken to gas chambers. It's terrifying. But at the end of the day, he comes back into the barracks or whatever, and he's like, it was so fun out there. We had so much fun today. I can't believe it. And he just he makes it. It's a great story about how even though you may be in the worst possible situation, your mindset can really dictate what your experience is, not just for his son who he wants to protect in the situation, but also for him, that he is able to put his mindset in a certain way in order to get through this and get through the day. And even though he's bone tired, come back and be excited and all this stuff. It's just so admirable. And, and, and when you get to the end of the movie, and it's incredibly beautiful, but his son's appreciation of this gift that his dad gave him, that he doesn't have this horrible trauma from this concentration camp, that he actually had a nice time, as weird as it sounds, that he wasn't afraid and he didn't have all of these problems. It's such a different kind of movie, because I feel like most times, especially American movies, it would be like the dad would be like trying to get them to escape, like trying to get them out or be the hero or fight these guys or whatever. And he doesn't. He just kind of is clever and funny and helpful, and he saves them in a very different kind of way. And I think it's so admirable. It's so beautiful, and it's great. It's so incredible, and it's kind of like, it's less silly than like Jojo Rabbit, but on the same kind of level of sincerity and beauty and sadness. So it's incredible. I love it.
It is incredible. That's another movie over the years I feel people have, and it sucks saying this, but it's kind of a forgotten movie.
Yeah.
When it came out, it was everywhere. I remember watching it and just being like, this is a whole new thing that I've seen. Because we were up to that point when it came to movies about the Holocaust and concentration camps. I mean, we had Schindler's List, which amazing film. I have nothing bad about that movie to say. It's incredible. It's profound. It's it's devastating. And it feels so real. Obviously, that stuff happened, and the movie was made to kind of give you a sense of the reality of a concentration camp. But when Life is Beautiful came out, and to have this whole kind of, we can show the tragedy, but we're going to focus on kind of the lengths that a father is going to go to, like you said, protect his kid's mind, especially. It was so different. And I remember him winning the Oscar. I can still picture it in my head, him climbing over the seat. Folks, you should watch it. It's awesome. The dude is that kind of excitement. I think we can only hope and maybe achieve someday. I hope we're able to achieve that level of excitement where literally nothing else matters. And you are so happy that it really, when he climbed over those seats and was like kissing people and just so happy, it was literally like a moment in a movie, right? Where the main character just quits caring about what's around him and just goes and does it. That's what it was. And I think that's something that is admirable. But yeah, I remember Life is Beautiful. That's a great movie, dude. It's so good. I haven't watched it for a few years, but that's a good
it's
one.
really good.
Whew.
All right.
Hey, we didn't cry. I got a little misty.
Much.
Got a little misty.
Yeah, got close.
Just
but
had
we
to
were
bring
good.
up Fox and the Hound. You.
I didn't know that would be the one to break you, but I got close.
What honorables do you got, sir?
I considered Up for a long time, mostly just the beginning of Up.
I always feel like a dick. I never cried at Up.
I think you're a dick. It's very sad. Mostly just the beginning. I didn't put it because the whole movie, it's not as much as the others, but there is a very, very, very sad and beautiful part that's done in a way only animated and Pixar can do. So Room.
Oh,
Room is a very beautiful movie.
that's a tough movie to get through.
It's tough. It's definitely tough, but it's beautiful as well. Casablanca. I love Casablanca. I
But
feel
like to
like
cry at?
I have cried at it
I'm
before.
not judging.
I
Like
think.
I was curious and looked up movies that people cry at, and Casablanca kept showing up, and I was
Oh, is it
like,
really?
"Did I miss something?"
I'm kind of surprised by that because I do feel like it comes up as like, oh, it's a classic and it's so nice and great. But I don't know if it's because I've just loved it so much over the years and have gotten more and more attached to it, or I think a lot of it is the story
Yeah.
that I just really
Oh,
like
it's a fantastic story.
the way that he puts himself in the situation where he's willing to let her succeed without him and able to love that other person and help her get away and love that other person even though he doesn't get anything out of it. It's beautiful. Dead Poets Society, I already said. I think that's pretty much it. What about you?
Those are good. Those are good. Well, you already said Fox and the Hound, Pursuit of Happiness, obviously. Those are the obvious. The ones that are not obvious, The Boy in Striped Pajamas.
Yeah. Another Holocaust movie.
Yeah, that movie it's so well done. And again, just that connection is so incredible to watch. But that movie is like almost the definition of heartbreaking. It's like Fox and the Hound, Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oh, 100%.
The Green Mile.
Yeah.
Because, damn.
Yeah, damn is right.
It's so good, but it is just so tragic. I think the scene in that movie that always just kind of gets to me is Hank's talking to John Coffey about, like, if there's a heaven, what am I going to tell God when I have to explain that I killed one of his angels? Like, that's a...
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Just hear you say it, I completely agree. I feel like most of Tom Hanks' movies I could easily cry at.
So I was going to bring this up earlier. When I pulled out the movies I like physically own that are movies that I cry to, I had like 5 or something of Tom Hanks, and I was like, okay, we gotta we gotta slow this down, all right?
Yeah, a little variety.
And then I'm gonna throw in an old timely family classic. I thought I would make it through. I can't make it through this movie. Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey.
Oh my God, yeah. Shadow.
Oh,
Yeah.
fucking Shadow.
Fucking Shadow. You feel like when he's like not coming around the corner and you're like, he's not gonna come, he's not gonna come. Oh my God, it's the worst. That movie ruined my childhood. I watch Homeward Bound so much because Chance is so funny, but Shadow is just
he's the guy, right?
Yeah.
But Chance's story is so cool in that movie. I love that he narrates it and just talks about, like, kind of learning and letting yourself be okay to trust and be vulnerable and be a part of a family. But yeah, Homeward Bound, when I watched it again, I was like, I'm probably not going to cry again, but I remember crying as a kid. And I was like, I just want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Nope, I was... the whole time I was like, this mom and this stepdad are fucking assholes.
Yeah.
Like, you easily could have taken the animals with you on vacation. You literally just went right back home. Like, you guys are dicks. Absolute dicks.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I feel like so many of the movies we watched as kids are like incredibly sad. I don't know if that's the same for every generation or just ours, but
maybe
it feels that way.
There is another one. It's kind of like just a funny, nostalgic, honorable for us, Jake, since we grew
Okay.
up in the generation that was obsessed with this movie.
Uh-huh.
Not many movies have as tragic and heartbreaking of a scene as Littlefoot losing his mom in The Land Before Time.
Yeah. That's true. Well, Littlefoot's mom is like the best.
Dude, that
Like
whole...
the
Have
whole
you rewatched
opening.
Land Before Time? That first one.
Actually, I watched it in this last year.
Okay.
Because Christy wanted to watch it. And I was like, oh, yeah, we should watch that. And I was like, I can't believe how sad this movie
Dude, that
is.
movie is like, it's so heartbreaking and then it's so uplifting. That could almost actually be on a top 10 tearjerker list.
Oh, for sure.
Because of just like Littlefoot's journey is so insane.
Yeah. Well, and his mom is so gentle and sweet.
Yep.
And yeah, when she dies and he's alone, it's just the worst.
Chasing those tree stars or like the shadows being cast across. And
those tree stars did look delicious, though.
They do.
I don't know what it is, but I always wanted to eat one.
Kids, if you haven't seen The Land Before Time, don't watch the sequels.
Yeah, there's like 12 sequels.
Just that first Land Before Time. It's not even an hour and a half. It's like barely over an hour. But wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of those movies from our childhood. I don't even know where they came from. I don't know if they were straight to movie, like television, if they're made for TV, if they were actual legit movies. But I watched the shit out of them as kids.
Oh, I watched the hell out of Land Before Time. So much I watched The Land Before Time. Oh, man. Hey, we get to move on to happier films now.
Thank goodness. Yeah, next week we're not talking about any movies in particular as far as specifics. We're talking about movies we've never seen before.
You said next week again, by the way.
Damn it. Next episode, which is 2 weeks from now, we will be talking about, we'll be doing our 2022 recap. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll talk a little bit about like what movies ended up being good this last year. And then we'll, of course, do our final check-in on the draft, figure out who won. Like I said, we have a tiebreaker and a trophy. Very exciting. And then we'll do our 2023 draft next episode, where we are going to talk about the movies we're most excited for, the ones we think are going to be good. There's a lot of movies, and we have some rule changes. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, we've been trying to iron out some of the wrinkles we learned this time around.
The kinks, yeah.
Just in time to learn all the new ones that will present themselves next year. Dude, I can't believe, like, end of the year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's weird.
It's pretty wild.
We do have something fun for the new year kind of planned. Just trying to figure out where we're gonna put it in, but you guys, you'll see some new things coming up. That'll be a lot of fun.
Excited for it. I agree. All right, I think that's all we have here. All right, thank you everybody for crying with us, and let us know what movies move you to tears.
Yeah,
just let us know. We love hearing those kinds of things.
Yeah. All right, everyone.
All right, until next time.
Bye.